Happy hump day, everybody. Welcome to the Sean O'Connell Show. Glad to have you with us on a show that is brought to you today and every single day by our friends over at Big Willie's. 1717 South Main, incredible food menu. Hopefully you went and enjoyed a little Cinco de Mayo celebration yesterday. We move on into spring sports. We've got NHL playoffs. We've got NBA playoffs. Lots of stuff to get to on the show today. Evan Cohen, as promised, will be joining us at 11:30. We'll go between the pipes with Adrian Denny to once again recap the Utah Mammoth season, the Bill Armstrong Bear Tourney, the exit interviews with the brass of the Utah Mammoth. I'll be honest, I was hoping for something that would be a little bit more groundbreaking, ground-shaking, earth-shattering. It was a lot of what we expected. And I say that tongue-in-cheek that I expected more. I wanted, we always want some soundbite to glom onto in the radio world, but this organization kind of knows exactly where it's at right now. And I got to say, they are on the pace that they promised when the team was brought from Arizona to Utah. And when I say the pace that was promised, I mean the pace that was promised, like cautiously, carefully, laid out expectations in a reasonable manner. This is exactly where the Utah Mammoth are at right now, and we'll discuss it more with Adrian Denny on the show today, but it's a refreshing thing. It's a good thing. It's a happy thing in sports when things go according to plan. Doesn't always happen that way. You got all these trades, these draft picks, prognostications, and at the end of the day, sometimes they go left. Last night in the NHL draft lottery, if Utah had been a team in the lottery, you probably were getting upset if your team was in the lottery. We have a caller? We have a phone call coming in? That's going to be a wrong number. That's my guess. 877-353-0700, though, if you want to ring in and talk to me. Last night, the NHL draft lottery took place. And if you saw me tweeting yesterday, I said, I just need the San Jose Sharks to stay far, far away from that number one overall pick. And they did. Yay! Here's the problem. The San Jose Sharks had a 5% chance to win the number 2 overall pick in the second draft lottery, and guess what? They won it. San Jose, now 4 years in a row, drafting in the top 4. Number 4, 3 years ago. Number 1, 2 years ago, Macklin Celebrini. He's working out handsomely. Number 2 last year, number 2 in this upcoming NHL draft. Why do I care about that? Well, as a Mammoth fan, you have to. As a Mammoth observer, as a Mammoth adjacent individual, you have to, because the San Jose Sharks, like the Las Vegas Golden Knights, are eventually going to be less of a problem than they are right now. They're an older team. They're a crustier team. They are not going to be able to keep it all together. The wheels fall off of that right as you're rounding into your open cup window, potentially, if you're the Mammoth. Okay, good news, whatever. The Edmonton Oilers. I don't think that their success is long for this NHL world. I think that Connor McDavid's frustrations are warranted. I think that there's an eventual divorce between the best player in hockey and the hometown team. We talked about it on the show yesterday. There's a 2-year window for them to keep things open and try to surround him with some more talent. They've been relatively unsuccessful in doing so far in his career. And I think it was Tom Callahan who joined us earlier in the week and said, I think he's going to be the greatest player to play in the NHL and never win a Stanley Cup. It would be tragic for all the hardcore fans of Connor McDavid out there. But the San Jose Sharks are on the come up and will effectively, in the next 3 years, in my opinion, replace what the Edmonton Oilers are right now with best player in the world, or a guy in the conversation as being best player in the world, rounding into his hockey prime with Macklin Celebrini if he can stay healthy. And then you surround him with more high draft picks, and it gets a little bit dicey. The conspiracy theorists in the hockey world, and count me among them because I always like a good draft conspiracy, they do their draft. You see it, right? They do the whole lottery thing publicly. They've got the little ping pong balls with the number combinations. And the Toronto Maple Leafs win the draft lottery and will be picking number 1. They were 5th most likely, so it's not some insane out of left field type situation. But where the conspiracy theorists thrive here is that this is now the second time in as many attempts that the Toronto Maple Leafs have missed the playoffs, right? They've got Austin Matthews, one of the top 5 players in the NHL right now. They've got Austin Matthews. And the last time they missed the playoffs, they also won the draft lottery. They got the number 1 pick. Guess who they turned that into? Austin Matthews. He has effectively stated, I'm going to give you guys this offseason to show me that you're surrounding me with support, with talent, and making a serious cup run. They turned over the front office. Toronto is in the NBA, I think, an afterthought of a market for a lot of people. Although I believe they're wildly important to the NBA's success and the model for the NBA to continue international expansion and growing the brand beyond just being a domestic and American league. In hockey, that Toronto market is sacrosanct. That is something that you have to keep thriving, partially because of the popularity of other things in Toronto. Toronto is a very international city. It is like a European hub almost, but in Canada. And if you let Toronto start to focus more on baseball, basketball, maybe American football, you're losing this stranglehold that hockey has had on the Canadian psyche in Canada's most important city. So the NHL has to be deeply invested in making sure the Toronto Maple Leafs stay relevant. And a couple of ways you can make sure they stay relevant is keeping Austin Matthews. Austin Matthews seeing that they're going to be able to draft number 1 and surround him with at least a young rising star. That should be helpful for him. And even if he decides, you know what, I don't believe in what you have going here, well, then you hit a nice little reset button on that talent stockpile by giving Toronto the number 1 overall pick again. Of course, this is all conspiracy. There's no real evidence to suggest that you have frozen the ping pong balls or you have somehow made one ping pong ball a little bit less dense than the others so it rises to the top and the number combinations are what they are to prevent any kind of chicanery, tomfoolery, shenanigans in that world. But the Toronto Maple Leafs won the draft lottery, and it is, again, a repeat of the last time they missed the playoffs. Oh, we missed the playoffs? Oh, darn it. Look, number 1 draft pick. They were 5th most likely. San Jose Sharks had a 5% chance to win second lottery. They won it. They picked number 2, and that is a much more relevant problem for you in the West. The Toronto Maple Leafs are something that you can kind of observe from afar, at least for now, until you become a real Stanley Cup contender, and then you might have to worry about who's coming out of the East. Speaking of the West and the Western Conference in these NHL playoffs, I said it yesterday. I will reiterate it again. Man, the Colorado Avalanche look like they are destined to win this year's cup. And I'm overreacting to what we have seen so far, but they are on currently a 9-game win streak going back to the regular season. They are unbeaten so far in this year's Stanley Cup playoffs. They have scored 14 goals in the last 2 games, 19 goals in the last 3 games. 23 goals in the last 4 games. They are on a blistering goal-scoring pace, influenced at least partially by game 1 against the Wild, where they won 9-6, but coasted to a 5-2 victory last night. And the Colorado Avalanche, who were the best and most dominant team all throughout the regular season, have not slowed it down one bit here in the Stanley Cup playoffs. We'll get into all of that a little bit further with Adrian Denny when he joins us later on in the show. I know that we're in the off season right now for college football and the NFL and the other, America's real pastime. Football is on its sort of painful hiatus where all of us are waiting and watching, and maybe I'll dip my toes in the UFL waters and see what that looks like. But college football is doing a good job of staying in front of the nation and making sure that they've got some reason for people to be talking about them. And the American Football Coaches Association has recommended changes to the college football calendar that I think we need to get into here. One of the most important parts of this change proposal, and why are these influential? Why do these matter? Well, the last time we had a conversation about the AFCA making a recommendation, that was the transfer portal going down to a single window. You remember this? About this time last year, we were talking about a vote, a discussion being had from the American Football Coaches Association. Hey, we want it to be one transfer window. We want it to be a January transfer window, beginning of the year transfer window. And my pushback on that was, and in some ways still is, although I've accepted the inevitability and the change. My pushback on that was, make it after spring. Make guys stay for a whole year. You get fall ball, then you get spring ball, and if it's not working the way you wanted it to, that's when your transfer comes in. And I still think it should be a one-time transfer, penalty-free, and after that, you are penalized by transfer. And that may end up be a change that comes into college football. There's this 5-for-5 plan. The single transfer plan is part of that. No official word yet, although there's a lot of momentum and support for some of these reforms. Of course, there will be legal pushback on whatever reform comes into play. But right now, I think that the American Football Coaches Association recommendations are actually, in a lot of ways, I won't say immune from pushback, but resistant to pushback, because you're not taking opportunities away from student athletes with the changes that they are recommending. Not meaningful ones, anyway. So, one of the important proposals is the season would end by the second Monday in January. Season ends second Monday in January. Okay. How about we just end the season on January 1st? Or make it January 2nd for the national championship game. Make it the first Monday in January instead of the second Monday in January. I don't know. I applaud and appreciate a coaches association, athletic. It doesn't matter where the source comes from. The adults in the room, who I have so often referred to as being absent, as being thoughtless, as being irresponsible. These adults in the room have said, hey, guys, let's dial it back a little bit, and let's go ahead and end this season. We'll do it the second Monday in January. This year, that is January 11th, 2027. College football season would be over.
Yeah, that was pre-CFP date. That was the date that before the expansion of the CFP, I should say. That was typically when it was. So a week earlier is much better.
So why do I say, well, let's just move it on back? This January 20th, the next Monday in January is going to be January 4th. All right, so who hates this idea? Nobody, I don't think. If you ended the season in 2027, this upcoming 2026-2027 season, you ended it on January 4th with the national championship game. You have played on the previous Friday, that would be the New Year's Day big time bowl games. You can let Army Navy play on January 2nd, maybe, and have the exclusive window there.
That's they're Rose Bowl-ish as you know, with their date. They're like, we have to be the second Saturday in December. We have to be. And so that'll be tough. That'll be a tough sell to those.
The exclusivity window that they want to maintain, if you adopt the rest of this proposal I haven't gotten to yet, they can't have it. They can't have.
Gotcha.
December is going to be filled with playoff games.
Yeah.
You can't have that exclusive date anymore. And the big bowl games, the New Year's 6 games, they don't want to move off of New Year's Day. They want those still to be affiliated with a college football playoff game. Something has to give there.
Right. Like I said, Rose Bowl is very stubborn about New Year's Day. Sugar Bowl has been that as well, but not quite as stubborn as the Rose Bowl is. But that's been a mainstay. And then, it'll be something's going to have to give. And like you said, Army Navy probably more of a, hey, like, you guys aren't the Rose Bowl. I'm sorry. You're great. You got all this history. We love it. But like, either the Rose Bowl may have to move or you're going to have to move, and we'd rather the Rose Bowl stay on New Year's Day. Might be what they do.
I am all for Army Navy having its own day. I think that's spectacular.
Absolutely.
But Army Navy, 99 years out of 100, and now moving forward 100 years out of 100, is not going to be a college football playoff, nationally competitive, nationally relevant from like a crowning a champion sort of standpoint. No. Not going to be relevant in that way. So give them a day in February. No one's going to care. We would all love to see it.
Yeah.
Oh, look, a little bonus game. Anyway, so why do I always have a problem with the fine print of these AFCA things? Well, if you say, all right, we're going to end the season the second Monday in January, and you're going to keep the transfer portal window open when it is right now, that means that the national championship games, some of these big-time games, are still being played while the transfer portal window is open. The singular transfer portal window is open. And we know that there's an extension for teams that are still involved and things like that. But if you can create more of a clean break where the season is over and that is when you open your transfer portal window, my initial thought was like, well, but what about the academics here? And then I remembered the academics, like, they don't care when the semester starts. They don't need to care when the semester starts. The transfer portal window should open when the season is done, when everyone's season is done. And yes, that will affect academic calendars, but when we're talking about Power 4 players, they don't care. We've all seen the viral like homework assignments for like Dalvin Cook going around, and like all these guys that are now in the NFL, and this is what their homework looked like at Georgia. This is what their homework looked like at Nebraska. This is what their homework looked like at USC. And it's like, okay, they're not here to play school, to quote one of the greats. You know what I mean? That's not what it's about. So open the transfer portal window when the season is over. That would be my only adjustment here. And so you either move the transfer portal window back or you move the games up. All right. Which one of those is easier? Probably the transfer portal window. But in any case, the AFCA recommendation is that the game end the second Monday in January, which this coming year would be January 11th.
So typically it's going to fall between the 8th and like the 13th, right? Like that's what we're talking about.
Yes. The AFCA board also proposed calendar changes starting in week 0. Everyone starts in week 0. So now your week 0 games are your week -1 games.
That's how
Love that.
They gain the extra week, so to speak.
Right.
Okay.
You reduce open weeks. So bye weeks in your season. You get 1 bye week in the season.
Which the Big 12 already doing this year. The first 2 years that Utah's been in, they've had 2. They're down to 1 this year.
They would preserve an exclusive window for the Army-Navy game in December, but allow postseason games to be played on the same day, which means you're not actually reserving an exclusive date for Army-Navy.
Yeah, that's exclusive means one.
I think that there might be some confusion about what the word exclusive means in this particular article.
We're having an inclusive date for preserving an inclusive date for Army-Navy.
They've also decided that we want to reduce the minimum number of days between games to no fewer than 6, which means that you don't have the conference championship game on a Friday after having played late on a Saturday or something like that. Here's the thing. They want to get rid of the conference championship games altogether in order to increase access to the college football playoff, in order to broaden those strokes, to make that a 24-team college football playoff. Remember when we were sitting at 4 and we were like, 4 is not enough. What are we going to expand to, 6 or 12 or maybe even 16? And everyone was just like, it's probably going to be 6 or 12. And 16 wasn't even talked about much. And now we have just leapfrogged right past 16. And we're talking about a 24-team college football playoff that would, of course, increase access for everybody. The problem here is that that increased access will once again benefit the Big Ten and the SEC more than anyone else. In a 24-team college football playoff, the Big 12 probably gets 3 teams in. The SEC and the Big Ten get 6 teams apiece in. The ACC gets 2 or 3, and that would rotate back and forth between the Big 12 and the ACC. And then, of course, Notre Dame gets in pretty much every dang year.
And 1 or 2 group of 5.
And no reservation.
Any. Yeah.
No reservation for group of 5 access.
Yeah, no automatic, but there's typically 1 or 2 that are ranked at the end of the year. The
1 or 2 ranked at the end of a year, even this year, right? In most seasons, 8 out of 10 seasons, 9 out of 10 seasons, the automatic qualifier bid that is reserved for like a James Madison, a Tulane or something, the rankings, unless they are protected by an automatic qualifying bid, a lot of times those teams are going to be left out by the rankings. The media will vote accordingly. Coaches will vote accordingly. The AI overlords that eventually are going to be in control of all this are going to read your algorithm and realize you don't want to watch UCF in a college football playoff. And they're going to be like, well, I shouldn't say UCF because they're now a Big 12 team.
Shout out to UCF.
James Madison. I'll use James Madison. They're going to be like, yeah, that actually isn't what people want to see. We've tried that experiment a couple of times. So I think that the right thing to do is to still preserve automatic access to the college football playoff, even if it's just one of 24 bids for a non-power team.
I mean, in that case, okay, they might get blown out in their only game in the playoff, right? But they're taking the place of a 3 or 4 loss Power 4 team instead of a 1 or 2 loss Power 4 team, or a 2 or 3 loss Power 4 team like they did this year, right? So with 24 teams, I feel like there's still going to be all kinds of frustration, aggravation over a group of 5 team getting in over an SEC or Big Ten team in particular. But in reality, if everyone just kind of took a beat and went, you know what? They're actually better than Iowa this year, though. So why do we have a problem with that? I shouldn't be as big of an issue as it's probably going to be made out to be if and when this gets implemented.
So this package puts several things on the table. For the AFCA says, hey, give us an expanded college football playoff, either 16 or 24 teams. Start the season earlier, end the season earlier. Something is probably going to have to give here. I appreciate asking for kind of the whole kit and caboodle at once and saying, no, let's make all these changes together and at least correct our calendar. The calendar thing is the thing that is not going to cause a big legal battle with your players and your player representatives. I don't think there's a lot of agents out there that are just like, I want my client playing on January 19th, and you can't stop them. That person is going to spend their time and their energy saying, you have to pay my player, whatever. The proposed changes by the AFCA, the four big ones, seem to be getting a lot of momentum. You listen to even just random pundits on radio. You listen to them on TV. They're just like, yeah, I mean, this sounds like a pretty good deal to me. Are we okay with losing conference championship games? I'm actually surprised. I should run a poll. I think I will run a poll. The conference championship weekend for me has been a lot of fun. Now, you could still win a conference championship, right? The old way. Before we haven't been doing the conference championship game thing all that long with BYU, with Utah, with the teams we've got here, with the Big 12, you just used to crown them by who won the regular season. You could still go back to that. We still do that in basketball, and then you have kind of the awkward, well, you're the regular season champ and we're the tournament champ, so we're both going to hang a banner this.
I actually hate that about college basketball. Don't hang a banner for regular season championships, but whatever.
I mean, then there are people who feel like don't hang a banner for the tournament championship.
Or don't have the tournament, but that's never going to happen. So,
in college football, there's a serious amount of support for, hey, let's just get the conference championship game thing is a waste of time. I don't know how you can feel that way. I literally don't, because some of the best weekends, the best memories, the most exciting and interesting times that I can remember in recent years from a Utah football family and community perspective has been those conference championship games, has been those conference championship weekends. Even the heartbreak of losing to Washington and the heartbreak of losing to Oregon, and then the triumph of beating the Ducks and beating the USC Trojans. Like, those were big time, lots of fun. Absolutely, let's turn this away stadium into the home stadium. Like, that's good stuff, man. That is you distill that down, you inject it right into my veins. That is college football fandom. And people are seemingly okay with just being like, we don't need that anymore. And my problem with it, the de-emphasis of a conference championship game leads to the stripping down of the value of a conference championship. And then what are we doing? We are doing this thing where the only goal that everyone decides worth chasing is college football playoff inclusion. All right. But we're expanding the field anyway, so we're automatically devaluing that accomplishment. To me, and I said this before we expanded to 12, to me, Utah getting into a 12-team playoff just to get into a 12-team playoff, if there was a scenario in which you did that without winning the conference championship, I'm not celebrating that the way that people want me to. I'm not celebrating that the way that other fan bases are. I'm not saying, we're a playoff team. Did you win your conference championship? That's the goal, right? You go into the purity of college football, and it's just like, what are you chasing? Well, I want to beat my rival. I want to win my conference championship. And yes, I have to say this part, we want to win a national championship. But for 99% of the schools out there, that is not a realistic goal. So you want to beat your rival, you want to win your conference championship, and that's kind of your season. You take away conference championship games, and you're eroding the value of those things. Yes, you can still be crowned regular season champ, but there's also going to be the tie scenario. We've had those before. I don't like losing those. How do you feel about it? 877-353-0700. Maybe Evan Cohen has some thoughts on this. He's going to join us next. ESPN Radio's Unsportsmanlike is early here on ESPN 700. 4 a.m. is when they start. Evan Cohen of Unsportsmanlike joins us next on the Sean O'Connell Show, ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM. Welcome back to the Sean O'Connell Show. Welcome in Evan Cohen of ESPN Radio's Unsportsmanlike, which you can catch right here on ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM. If you are up very early here in the Mountain Time Zone, they start at 4 a.m. Evan Cohen, welcome to the show. How are you, sir?
Great. How are you?
We're doing awesome, man. We're in the thick of these playoffs. So we've been paying a lot of attention to the NHL playoffs. Unfortunately, our Mammoth are out, and of course, the Utah Jazz are far away from NBA playoffs. But hopefully, that changes sooner than later, and hopefully, the upcoming draft lottery this weekend will help us in that regard. I'm sure you probably didn't pay a ton of attention to what was going on here this time last year, approaching an NBA draft lottery, and it was just anticipation, hope, almost an assumption that the Jazz had done what they were supposed to do. They had tanked their way to being terrible, and the reward would be Cooper Flagg and that number one draft pick. And then, of course, the team fell as far as they statistically were able to fall to number 5. The pick ended up working out nicely, but the disappointment this time last year was just thick and insane. And then you fast forward to now, and it's strange, Evan, because A.J. DeBonsa is probably even more coveted by the local fan base here, but there seems to be a peace and acceptance that it's not going to happen for this Utah Jazz team. It's an unfair question, but why do you think there's such a drastic difference between the 2 years?
Well, I do remember last year, and I remember it actually got worse because remember there were, obviously, what am I telling you? You know, but I remember all the reporting around Ace Bailey not wanting to go to specific teams.
Yes.
Right? And the Jazz being one of those teams, if I'm not mistaken, that
That's
he
right.
wants to go to. But I think it's different for a couple of reasons. So I think the disappointment last year obviously was around a quote-unquote, let's call it tank, to get Cooper Flagg. And while the same results kind of happened this year, it was done a little bit differently because there's tangible evidence of eyes for the future, and this being the last year that they're willing to accept doing this, right? I mean, when you think about when you make the trade for Jaren Jackson Jr., you're basically saying, we think we have something here that is unique to us in the way in which we could put this together, that if they re-sign Walker Kessler and they have Lauri Markkanen and they have Jaren Jackson Jr. and Ace Bailey is what, a 6'10 shooting guard somehow, wing, whatever you want to call it, and then you add obviously pieces around them, I think you're looking at it in terms of bigs, right? I think you're looking at it, there's so many of them as it is, Keontae George obviously, I just think that there's tangible evidence that this could be a playoff team in the near future, and the days of tanking are officially done, but not because of the lottery, to me, more so because of the Jaren Jackson Jr. trade. Now, to your initial point about DeBonsa, I think this whole thing is really interesting. First of all, you know him better than I would. He seems like a really good kid. I could be wrong about that, but he comes off like a really good kid that just wants to play basketball. I think the tie to Ryan Smith is fascinating. In a way, I hope it happens just from a discussion point, because the idea of a majority governor of a team funding a college basketball program and getting a specific player because of his funding, and then that player being drafted by his team, oh, baby, we are going to have rampant speculation, reckless speculation, with no ammo of any evidence around how he would end up with the Jazz.
I am one who will be stoking those flames. I stubbornly cling to the conspiracy of, like, how did you reward the Dallas Mavericks for trading Luka to the Lakers, and maybe this will be the reward for the Utah Jazz. But then wait, mid-season we were given a slap on the wrist, so maybe the NBA is going to use the Jazz as an example for their anti-tanking initiatives, which of course we now have a more cogent sort of rule proposal on. And I want your thoughts on that. The Jazz were singled out during the season and said, hey, you can't do this. You can tank. It's a time-honored tradition, but you can't do it this way. That's upsetting for people that are important not to upset. So don't do it this way. Here's a $500,000 fine. Was that all the punishment, though? Are the Jazz, they paid their money, they said their sorries, and now they're back in the good graces? Or is this something that we have to worry about in the future, the Jazz being the poster boys for NBA punishment?
When you said you're gonna add to the flame to the fire, that setup was so great that you just did it. You did it like that. That just did it, because that setup is basically suggesting have the Jazz done enough to be rewarded the number one pick in something that is supposed to be a lottery. I know you know what you're doing. You've been doing this for a long time. I've talked to you multiple times. I know you know what you're doing, but you just did it. I didn't do this. I want to be clear on this. On the Sean O'Connell show, I did not, Evan Cohen, I don't mean to go third person, did not do what just happened here, which is have the Jazz paid enough money to the league to apologize for tanking to get their choice of a pseudo hometown kid by way of Boston, AJ Devanza, or Darren Peterson. I did not say that, but you did, just to be clear.
Yes, I'll accept that responsibility.
Okay, just making sure we're good on that one.
Yes.
Just making sure we're good on that one. I don't know that it works. Let me rephrase. I know it does not work that way. I do not think that is going to happen that way. But I think if you're a Jazz fan, which obviously everyone listening basically is, I think you could feel good about the damage has been done. The years of bad performance are over. The paying of the fines for tanking are done. You're going to get a lottery pick this year. You're going to have a healthy team with some flexibility next year, and you are heading in the right direction, even if you don't get the number one pick in the draft.
It is a deep draft.
By the way, can we just play out one thing, though?
Yes.
What if they do get the number one pick in the draft?
What if they do? It will be.
Who do they pick?
They pick AJ. Yeah, undoubtedly.
Okay. So then who's gone?
Better question would be who's gone. And maybe you don't move anyone right away because you want to tweak things. You want to see if AJ could be a point guard in the NBA. You want to see if you could hybridize him in some type of way. Keontae, I think, improved himself and made a case that he should be a part of the core moving forward. It'd be lovely to see what, either AJ coming off the bench early in his career or Ace Bailey coming off the bench early in his career could do for your second unit. If it's not like if you get AJ DeBonsa, you're automatically, an NBA championship favorite. You still got to try to keep up with San Antonio and with LA and most importantly with Oklahoma City. But then you have an embarrassment of riches, which the Utah Jazz, I would make an argument, have never had, even going all the way back to the John and Carl years.
But that's a great answer. And it's, you know what? The more I look back on it, what a terrible question. Your answer is, no, I'm serious. The era that we're living in is when a guy who scored 40 in the NBA Finals last year, who's an all-star, is out, and there's like 6 other guys somehow to replace him because Oklahoma City is so loaded with all of their draft picks under control, signing them early, extending them, and hitting on second-round picks, that when Jalen Williams is out, not that it's okay, they'll be fine. I'm not suggesting that. But they have enough options to replace him. And what I did is I acted presumptively in asking the question as if the Jazz are ready to win a championship, instead of just acknowledge there's a lot of guys on that team in that scenario, let them all play a lot of minutes, and then figure out who stays and goes when they are ready to be good enough to potentially win a championship or compete for a championship. And inevitably somebody will say, I don't like my role because I'm better than this. And then they flip that one guy for 2 guys who can continue to contribute. Your answer was way better than my question, and that is the right statement in my mind. The answer is if they get the number 1 pick or the 2 pick, no one should go. You all are staying, and you all are going to fight this out as teammates. That's the answer. Great job by you. Bad job by me, even though you suggested a conspiracy theory that would take down the league.
Evan Cohen is our guest here on the Sean O'Connell Show, at least indulging in my conspiracy theory fantasies for a second. I'm glad we're having this question, though, because the overarching theme for me when I watch the NBA playoffs right now, with the backdrop of what Utah Jazz basketball is trying to be, is I'm looking at San Antonio, I'm looking at OKC, and I'm going, man, I really like Lauri Markkanen. I genuinely do. I think that Jaren Jackson Jr. was the right trade to make, and he's going to help the defense, which is a big problem for this young core. I'm incredibly impressed with what Keontae George made himself into this year. So I can, at the same time as I'm happy about all that progress and about getting a top 5, I think he'll probably be a top 5 pick in this upcoming NBA draft that will actually mean something because it is a deep draft. I'm watching these other teams and I'm going, do I really buy it that the changes made and the draft picks that are available are going to be enough in today's NBA? Because Victor Wembanyama is an alien. He's not, like, you can't even define his abilities yet. At 22 years old, he's already on the verge of being the best player in the league on both ends of the floor in many games. And that's what you have to go up against for the next decade plus.
Well, what do you want them to do? Switch to the Eastern Conference?
No, I just mean, like, this experiment. I guess my question for you there is, you already referenced the trade and the sort of end of the tanking era that the Jazz have been in for the last 4 or 5 seasons. Do you buy it that what they have now is going to be enough to make them a meaningful contender?
Yeah, no, obviously I was being a smartass on that. So I think that the way to do it is the cliche strength in numbers, right? Because if you're looking at San Antonio, ultimately Wemby's maxed out, right? They're going to not ability, I'm saying financially, going to be maxed out. They're going to have to consider maybe at some point moving one of the guards. And now all of a sudden, okay, we have lesser guys, but like they have guys that could be maxed out pretty quickly here. And I think the number one concern, if I'm a Jazz fan and I'm thinking I could be like Oklahoma City and be loaded, but does that even matter in 2 or 3 years when Wemby is at his best? Here's the number one concern that I would have. It's going to sound weird, but hear me out on this. You actually want Wemby to play in as many games as possible the next 2 years. Now, why would I say that? If Wemby continuously plays less and less, but has the same impact of dominance, but he plays less than 65 games, he's then not eligible for the Supermax. And why is that important? Because if he's not eligible for the Supermax, San Antonio actually benefits, because then they have money to spend under the cap and under the apron. I think the more he plays, the more money he's going to be eligible to make, the less money they're going to have to use for everybody else. You know what the real key to the Warriors dynasty was? Steph Curry's injuries. Because Steph Curry had ankle injuries early on in his career. And as a result of the ankle injuries, he didn't initially get a huge contract. By not having a huge contract, they were able to sign Kevin Durant in addition to Steph, Clay, and Draymond. But if he had no ankle injuries, and he was that guy that we know him to be now, early on, they can't sign Kevin Durant because he's maxed out. He had to take less because nobody was they weren't going to offer him more. So what you need, in a weird way, is the timing to work out where it feels like San Antonio is hamstrung relative to the money they're paying. At the same time, you have 10 guys that can play strength in numbers at that same time. I hope that made sense, but that in my head it did. In my head, it was a really good point. Don't know if it actually came out that way.
Well, no, it came out as a really good point, because I think that myself and maybe everyone else overlooks what you were just talking about, what the ripple effect of not having to pay supermaxes does, not 2 teams, but 4 teams when they have stars and they can add more because of it, whether it is because of an injury or, in this case, your proposal is that, Victor Wembanyama staying below that 65-game threshold that would take him out of not only postseason award conversations, but Supermax conversations,
right.
Allows the rich to get richer. And that's if you
think about it this way. The number one team that I would associate the Jazz with, if I'm a fan, in terms of where does this group come from, would obviously be the Celtics, right? So because of the Ainges and because of Will Hardy, right, their experience with the Celtics. So this year's Celtics versus the last few years. The last few years, because the Brown and Tatum contracts hadn't really hit, strength in numbers. They had all these guys that were unbelievable, right? And then it's like, oh, well, we can't pay this tax bill. Porzingis has got to go. They let Horford walk. They have to trade Drew Holiday. All these moves that they had to make. Now, they were great during the regular season, but then if you're really based around 2-3 guys and one of them's hurt, like in the case of Tatum in a short series, you end up blowing a 3-1 lead. But that's not going to happen to Oklahoma City because of the equivalent of their second-best player in Jalen Williams getting hurt. They're still going to be fine because all of the contracts haven't fully hit yet.
Evan Cohen for another minute or two here on the Sean O'Connell Show. who has the best chance of dethroning Oklahoma City?
Minnesota. Now I also, if you say to me who's going to win the San Antonio Minnesota series, I still might say San Antonio.
Yeah.
But I actually think Minnesota has the best chance of doing it. I don't know that they're going to get the opportunity, even though they're up 1-0, to do it. I think the Knicks are playing better than anyone else right now, but I just think Minnesota is more fearless than anyone else, and I think you need a little irrational confidence to be able to beat this juggernaut that is the Thunder, who's 5-0 in the postseason. Who would you say? Same question back to you.
Well, I spent a lot of time on this yesterday, and I think I'm probably being lazy by echoing your sentiment. The styles make fights thing matters a lot in this year's NBA playoffs, and I think we saw that in round one with Minnesota being able to beat Joker and cause everyone in Denver to question the future of that franchise. And you need that defensive presence, that size, I think, to take out some of these teams, including Oklahoma City. And if you're the only squad that has it, and that can get you past San Antonio as well, you've got the best chance. So I think it is very much you might not be the best team, but your style and your size make you the best matchup for what we know is the best team in the league.
Well, here's the most interesting part of this. None of this actually may come to fruition, but because on Sunday, when the draft lottery rolls around, if the Jazz get the number 1 pick, the league is going to fold as a result of the Sean O'Connell show. So, that's what we learn here today. It doesn't matter.
Hey.
Oklahoma City may be the last champion in NBA history as a result.
I've had so many people, journalists that get to be in the room during the draft lottery, come on the show, and they're just like, all right, dude, it's not really a conspiracy. And I'm like, well, intellectually, I know that, but also emotionally, I refuse to accept it. And then last night we had the NHL draft lottery, and guess what happened there? The Toronto Maple Leafs got the magical number 1 pick, and the San Jose Sharks capitalized on an only 5% chance to get the number 2 pick. And I'm like, aha! I'm going to find some conspiracies there as well, Evan. It's just who I am.
I love it. By the way, I learned last night that Penn State had a hockey program. I don't think I knew that. I'm going to be honest with you.
I don't expect anything profound, but I hope you have something here. Do you agree with, disagree with, support the idea of removing conference championship games from the college football landscape?
Oh, absolutely. Oh, okay, wait, hold on. This is good. I didn't know we were going to go here. This is great. Okay, so not only would I do that, do you know what my bigger pet peeve is? Why do small conferences in college basketball that are one-bid leagues have conference tournaments when all you actually do is lose money? People think, oh, it's a huge moneymaker. No, it's not. You lose money, and then you don't get your best team in the tournament because if they get upset in the conference tournament. And that's much less. But, yeah, if we're going to have a conference championship game and it's going to hurt a conference getting their best teams into the college football playoff, why would we voluntarily do that? If Sean O'Connell is the best host for the Sean O'Connell show, why would it be up for grabs who hosts today? That doesn't make any sense. That's what we're doing. Like, you did all these shows. Like, yeah, you know what? Let's see who should host. Why would anyone else host?
Well, I actually don't like this analogy because there's probably a lot of people listening right now just like, we would rather have so-and-so than Sean O'Connell.
Oh, yeah, bad idea. Yeah, you know what? Too real. My bad. My bad. On me.
It's close to home.
Get better in all 3 phases.
But look, there's validity to everything that you're saying. My worry here is that when you take away a conference championship game in football, I think it's different than basketball. In football, take away the conference championship game, you go back to decorating whoever the conference champ is, and maybe you got to share it every other year with somebody. We're just de-emphasizing the conference championship as a whole. And for most teams, nobody wants to accept this. We're on the Utah station. People don't want to accept this on the Utah station. For most teams, that is the pinnacle of your season. The conference championship is as good as it's going to get. Yes, you could be invited to the college football playoff, but it's going to be Ohio State or Indiana or Alabama at the end of the year. It's not going to be BYU or Utah. And so a national championship is an unrealistic goal for 99% of the college football programs out there. And the expanded college football playoff just just furthers that illusion and de-emphasizes conference championships as a milestone that's actually attainable. I don't want that to go away.
Yeah, and I understand that, and I understand it's more than just the one thing that we're talking about here. I get it, and I don't know. I don't like the idea. Like Miami last year gets to the national championship game and almost didn't get in.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
but they were the best team though all year in the ACC.
2 years ago, Ohio State in a 4-team playoff would not have made the college football playoff. They ended up winning the national championship just because we had changed the rules in the year that they needed the rules to be changed. I mean, it's the only reason Ryan Day is still employed. The butterfly effect of all these things is almost impossible to anticipate.
For sure. And it's funny, I actually thought it got so absurd in that specific example around Ryan Day that I brought up, and people laughed at me, but after they won the championship, I'm just like, maybe you should just go now. Like, they seemingly will never be satisfied with this guy. Just go. Just go to the pros right now, call it a day, and just leave because of everything you're just saying. Like, he won a championship, but he didn't beat Michigan. Which, by the way, are Utah fans now rooting for Ohio State or Michigan in that matchup? Just out of curiosity.
I think that right now there's a lot of Ohio State bandwagon jumpers because there's a lot of salt over the way that this exit happened, and more specifically over the coffers being raided and players and coaches that we thought Utah would be able to retain when Kyle Whittingham retired, which of course he didn't. We thought they'd be part of things moving forward, and then he said, "Oh, I'm still coaching, and it happens to be at Michigan. Guess who I'm taking with me?" That's been hard for a lot of Utah fans to swallow.
And he got a hell of a chief of staff, general manager, in Bears Najarian, who Utah fans may not be aware of, but that was Bill Belichick's right-hand man forever. Everyone that knows him speaks glowingly about him, and he's like the real deal. And Whittingham got him to go to Michigan, which was I did not see that one coming. I'm sure there's a connection I'm unaware of, but he was at BC for a year or two with Bill O'Brien, and then out of nowhere, now this guy is a big-time guy, and he's right next to Kyle Whittingham at Michigan.
Wonderful. Great. Glad to hear it. And, by the way, Kyle Whittingham's –
I probably didn't need to add that, right? Because it's like, all right, we had this good appearance. I'm all pro talking Utah. I think it's a great place, all this stuff. You and I get along well. And then I just did that. That probably felt like a bad decision. When you're setting up, you got to get up really early to listen on Sportsman, like at 4 in the morning. Someone out there is like, I may set my alarm a little earlier. Then I added the Bears Najarian, which had no basis to be included anywhere. And now their alarm is still later in the day. Wonderful. Great. I just lost the audience.
It's all right. We've all done it. Evan, appreciate you. Appreciate you jumping on and your thoughts, man. Thanks so much. And please continue to do an incredible job on Unsportsmanlike. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
That's Evan Cohen. Unsportsmanlike is at 4 a.m. on ESPN 792.1 FM. And, I mean, you heard it right there. Evan is just chef's kiss. He is excellent at the job. Really, really, really good stuff, as always.
And by the way, it goes for a few hours, so you don't have to get up to listen to all of it. You can catch part of it just to help our guy Evan sleep a little bit better. He doesn't get much sleep as it is.
We're trying to maximize Evan Cohen's quarter hours, okay? We want him to get a rating from 4 a.m. on, so you got to listen.
You got to listen every minute or don't listen at all.
It's all or nothing. No, just kidding. It's not. That's not our policy because everyone's like, I'm not listening to 3 hours of you. I was just kidding, guys. All right. We're going to double up here because I've abused the clock, as is always my way. We'll still do the hot lunch, but it'll just be at noon on the Sean O'Connell Show, ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM. The hot lunch today is 15 minutes late. Okay, don't worry about it. Hot lunch is brought to you today by Big Willie's, 1717 South Main. You had Cinco de Mayo celebration yesterday. They brought us the street tacos, the pozole soup. They brought in this massive chile verde burrito, and it was an incredible Cinco de Mayo menu. All right? You probably don't want to go Mexican food 2 days in a row down at Big Willie's, so today go in and get the mushroom burger, okay? Swiss cheese, sautéed mushrooms, incredible homemade bun, and, of course, a perfectly grilled patty. I'm always going tater tots or maybe now tater kegs on the side. The fries are excellent. I'm just a tots kind of guy, all right? Double fry sauce because, extra dipping. Tell them OC sent you. They keep the lunch specials under $15 every single day at Big Willie's. They've got drink specials, $4 and under every single day. They've got cold beers on draft. They've got soda pops and waters if you're going to go over for a lunch during work. And, of course, you can always shoot some pool as well. Trivia nights, bingo nights, poker on Sundays, and sports all up and down the calendar with the NBA and NHL playoffs going on right now at Big Willie's. All right, a couple of things here. Joel Embiid, we talked about it yesterday. I was kind of ranting in favor of Anthony Edwards and the Minnesota Timberwolves and ranting against the Philadelphia 76ers and how they're just kind of opposite ends of the spectrum. You got this one superstar who's arguing with the doctors and the medical experts on his team to make sure he can play and contribute, and Minnesota got a win because of it. And then on the other end of things, the 76ers got blown out by 40 points, and Joel Embiid and company were sitting down and giggling on the bench. Two things cannot happen in the same series. This should be like a finable offense. If you are making jokes and cracking wise during a loss on the bench, you cannot the next game be like, oh, also I can't play in this game because I have some injuries.
Also, my knee hurts. So, because I was hitting it too hard while I was cracking jokes on the sideline.
Hip soreness and an ankle sprain are keeping Joel Embiid out of the game.
Hip,
what?
Knee, whatever. Yeah.
Dude, what?
In other words, in other news, his arm is falling off tomorrow because the guy has literally hurt every part of his body at this point. He had an appendectomy at the end of the season, OC. That's what kept him out of the first part of the first round series.
It's like his body's like, you know what? We've been too hard on the joints as of late. Let's attack an internal organ. Let's go with an inflammation or something that needs to be surgically handled. But I don't want it to be the joints. His joints have suffered enough. He's 7 foot plus. He's almost 300 pounds. We've really beat up the joints already. Let's do something with the internal medicine here. And the body just got together. All the white blood cells had a little conversation. It's like, what part of the body are we going to rush toward here in order to cause serious pain and inflammation? Well, you can't do it to the liver. That's scary.
Yeah, nothing life-threatening.
We don't want to have heart or lung problems, okay? Hey, we could do gastric distress. You guys want to spend a little time in the colon? Nah, no one wants to spend time in the colon. Appendix. All right, let's go appendix. I mean, the guy is just made of wet toilet paper.
It sucks so bad because when he plays, he is so good and so fun to watch. He's one of the most skilled big men we've ever seen, right? And the problem is he can't play most of the time. And I was talking with my brother, visited some family over the weekend down south, and we were talking about this as they were upsetting the Celtics in Game 7. We were like, man, he is so fun to watch. We need him to be healthy for the playoffs, for the Eastern Conference playoffs in particular, to be even more compelling. And here he is, not healthy again. It's just terrible luck for him. I know he has a lot of haters because of the injury stuff, and he's a snarky dude as well. But you can't deny how fun he is to watch when he's healthy, and it just sucks he has such bad injury luck.
What would you rather have on the Jazz, on the Mammoth, on your Buckeyes, on the Utes, on the Boston Red Sox, on whatever? Any team, just drop this prospect into any team. Would you rather have a fragile megastar? I'm talking about like a first ballot Hall of Fame talent who's fragile and always hurt, or would you rather have an incredibly reliable and durable, like just quality starter, just someone that's not a huge difference maker, but just a plus player, not a like borderline all-star. We'll go borderline all-star. Like they make one all-star, all-pro, whatever game, just one time.
And let's just assume you make the playoffs with either one of these guys, right? That's because obviously if you're not making the playoffs with the solid guy, then you'd rather have the guy who's fragile and you make the playoffs with him. So you make the playoffs with either one of the guys. Man, that's tough. I think I would rather one playoff run, assuming the rest of your team is set up to maybe win a championship. I'd rather have one playoff run with the fragile guy.
Okay.
I think I would.
I think it's a reasonable take to be like, because what I remember one of the best shows that I ever remember or did during my radio career when I'm out in San Francisco. This is before the Warriors dynasty, right? This is like
you were there like at the precipice of it.
This is when Steph Curry was missing a lot of games with ankle injuries that we just talked about with Evan Cohen.
Beginning of the Mark Jackson era.
It was the end of the Mark Jackson.
Or the end of the Mark Jackson era. Okay.
But it's Bogut's on that team. Draymond is there.
It's the whole core. It's just a different coach, basically.
Yeah, and a less healthy and less present Steph Curry, and he was being criticized heavily because of these things, right? And we were getting into it, and my co-host at the time, Matt Steinmetz, who's been on this show, he's a basketball guy. He's a hoops insider. He's a Warriors insider, and we were talking about that, and we were debating on the merits of Steph Curry as a point guard, right? And this is, of course, before he's an MVP, before all these things. And part of the debate was, and remember what Golden State had already been through with like the Hardaway and Mullen years, the We Believe teams, that kind of stuff. And we were having this debate, and he asked, like, what would you rather have, a team that's in the playoffs for 10 years or a championship 1 year? And I was like, well, I'd rather have the championship 1 year. It's great to be engaged, to be dialed in. Like, and the Mammoth are going to be in the playoffs for the next 7 years, okay? And the Utah Jazz hopefully get back to that point. You would trade a run of any kind of consistency for one brush with greatness in pro sports. One. If you could trade one championship year for 10 of the years we just saw with the Utah Jazz, you're like, yeah, I'll take it. Give me one championship, and I'll still renew my season tickets for the 10 years that I'm having to just go for the sake of going and watching the competition.
Here's a tougher question for Jazz fans. Because obviously we're desperate for an NBA championship if you're a Jazz fan. You got so close with Stockton Malone. They were in the playoffs every year for 20 years. If you could go back in time and get whoever, that's obviously an unrealistic thing because that singular superstar was not coming to Utah, but let's pretend they were. If you can go back in time and get, let's say, Scottie Pippen at the end of the Bulls run, he's a free agent, signs with the Rockets. Say you get him with the Jazz and they win the 99 championship. Would you have traded the previous, at that point, 17 straight years in the playoffs and almost winning the championship a couple of those years for that one championship with, say, Scottie Pippen still in his prime? I think I might,
and that's
if
why
you had to, but
and
a lot
that's
of people might not.
That's what the fragile superstar offers you. The ideal scenario is you have a durable superstar. You have a superstar who's constantly available. You have a superstar that plays every game, every year. You've already had that, right? You had that with the Utah Jazz, like you said, for 2 decades. You had superstar players, top 50 of all time in the NBA, top 3 point guard in the history of the league, top 3 power forward in the history of the league for 20 years together, and you did not win a championship.
Durability was an understatement with those two.
Like, that was their best ability, was durability, right? And it didn't give you, like, it should have given you a championship. It would have given you a championship if Michael Jordan did not exist.
Or if the Pacers had just gotten one jump ball. in Game 7, and that like Jordan did exist, and they were still one loose ball away from maybe a Jazz championship.
But what Joel Embiid offers you, frustratingly, maddeningly so, is that brush with greatness, is that tantalizing, well, if we can keep him healthy for 27 games in a row, 28 games in a row, then he could help us win a championship.
Yeah, Spence Checketts talked about, you know who was at the Messi game for RSL, part owner of RSL, Dave Blitzer, who is the governor of the Philadelphia 76ers. Spence has told the story the last couple of weeks. He took advantage of him being there and said, "Hey, tell me about the Sixers. How do you like?" He asked him specifically about Joel Embiid, and what Dave Blitzer said is, "We're riding with him," and those 4 words tells you exactly the point that you're making, OC. They're saying we have the roster. Doesn't matter what seed we are. With the 7 seed, doesn't matter. We believe we have the roster, if that guy's healthy, to have a legitimate shot at the NBA championship. So we are riding with him, even if logically it's like you maybe should cut ties with the guy because he's never going to be on the court.
Do you want Joel Embiid, who's available literally, statistically, he's available 50% of the time. He has missed 47% of his total available games in his NBA career. And when he plays, he is a bona fide all-star. He is a big-time talent. Now, he's not the best big man in the league.
He's on the short list, though.
But he's up there.
Yeah, it's like, 3 years ago when he won the MVP over Nikola Jokic, who finished second and was in line to get 3 straight. It was him or Jokic is the best players in the league, is the best big men in the league. Absolutely. I don't know that he's that far off of that, even with Wembanyama on the scene now.
I mean, you think
when
of
he's healthy.
And by the way, you can extend this to baseball. You can extend this certainly to football. You can extend this into college football world, right? Like, this is going to be this. People are going to hate me for saying this, and people get mad at me because they feel like I single this guy out too much. But give me Dallin Bentley over Brant Keithy any day. Not because I think one guy's a better player, but because one is available. One plays the position, does what he's supposed to do, is not nearly the dynamic weapon, is not nearly the scoring threat, doesn't expand the playbook in any kind of meaningful way, just is a really, really solid player. Like Dallin Bentley, honorable mention all-conference type of guy. Brant Keithy, at his very, very best, is a top-flight weapon positionless weapon in college football, but not available enough, right? And especially in college football and in college sports, when your windows are narrower, when a guy's really got, in most cases, 3 years, sometimes 4 or 5, where it's like, okay, what is this guy? How do we capitalize on this guy in these 3 years? That's in football, that's 36 games. If you're available for 18 of those games and the coaching staff has planned around and recruited around and hoped for your ability and has put packages into the playbook for your availability and you're not there, it is devastating. And again, I'm not saying that to pick on anyone. I feel terrible that that's how Brant Keithy's career ended up at the University of Utah, because from a talent standpoint, from a versatility standpoint, he should have left here as one of the all-time legends, one of the most productive. And that, by the way, even without like an extended COVID window, he should have been able to do that with just his ability standpoint. But the fragility becomes such a massive problem. In the NBA, it's less problematic, even when you're talking about a Joel Embiid, 47%. And you know what? Maybe Joel Embiid is not enough of a difference maker with the way the Knicks are playing right now. And maybe that's part of his internal calculation.
Hey, he was on the floor and they lost by 40 points. So,
and maybe that's part of his mentality with this, where he's just like, dude, like, they smashed us when I was playing.
I don't know that it is, though. I mean, we'll get away from this quick tangent here in a second, but I don't know that it is what he's thinking because the Celtics smashed him in his first game back in the Celtics series to go up 3-1, and then they ended up winning the series. So I got to think that he thinks if I'm on the floor, we still have a chance.
It's certainly overly reductive to take any playoff series and call it like, well, it happened in this game and I was there. But man, I don't know Joel Embiid. I laughed at the way that, like, I really had a good kick out of his when he first arrived in Philadelphia, the way that he sort of just like refused to accept his superstardom, and he would go for like runs on city streets in bad neighborhoods and stuff. And they should be like, is Joel Embiid taking a jog through Kensington right now, which is like a drug-addled, terrifying neighborhood in Philadelphia? Excuse me. And then they would ask him about it. He'd just be like, yeah, just getting a workout in. I just want to be like a man of the people. I love that about Joel Embiid. If I had to choose between Joel Embiid and like Lauri Markkanen, well, Lowry's a bad example because he's been injured plenty of times too. I was thinking a one-time All-Star, but
has he been that
injured? Give me a good one-time All-Star that we don't have a personal connection with, like Lauri Markkanen, that I can choose instead of Joel Embiid,
who plays a lot.
Yeah,
right.
who's always available. That if I'm
one-time All-Star,
if I'm looking at it and I'm going, man, would I rather have that guy or that guy? I think he's still, and this is why people go they fall all over themselves to try.
Well, hello. This year, let's use first-time All-Star this year, Denny Avdia.
Okay.
Portland Trailblazers, who
Doesn't
really burst on the scene.
Doesn't miss a lot of games. Hasn't missed a lot of games.
I was going to say Gordon Hayward. Oh.
Okay, Denny.
We have a personal connection to him that it's not very good, and he was always hurt after he left the Jazz.
I'm especially interested in this because we got an NBA draft lottery coming up this weekend where I don't think most of these top prospects, right, are available. But the guy who's kind of the number 2, right, in the conversation to be number 1, Darren Peterson.
My cousin Darren, yeah.
That's right. Strong family resemblance. With Joel Embiid, you just have to accept that this is the way things are. And it sounds like they have accepted that in Philadelphia. And they're just like, yep, we got a sunk cost here. There's nothing we can do about this. We're riding with him. We're paying him. We're doing the things we're supposed to do. And we hope for the best with him. With Darren Peterson specifically, he may or may not, depending on where the Jazz land, he may or may not be available for the Utah Jazz. Now, some of his availability at Kansas sounds like it was less than certain that it was all about physical health, and maybe there were some weird other mental things going on, or some gamesmanship, or some, like, I don't know, leverage plays or whatever. What we know is that Bill Self, when he got the truth serum, he seemed to kind of hate it.
Yeah.
And then obviously was talked to and was like, nope, we're going to take the high road here. And so he did for the rest of the season. But if I'm looking at this Darren Peterson as a prospect, and I'm just singling him out, it could be anyone who's in that same boat.
I mean, Caleb Wilson at 4 missed half the season with a wrist injury, or the last month or whatever.
Clearly incredible talents, right? Do you say, I will take the risk on that guy, on the mega talent, on the ceiling, knowing that the floor is just absence? Because that's really what it is with a lot of these guys, right? You look at somebody like A.J. DeBonsa, you consider what his ceiling is going to be, and you're like, wow, that's amazing. But then you also look at what you think his absolute floor is, and you're like, even that's not bad.
That's a starter. That's a guy, probably an all-star.
That's not bad at all.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Kingston Flemings, you look at his ceiling, and you're just like, ooh, this could be really great. You also look at his floor, and you're just like, yeah, you know what? That probably justifies a top 5 pick. But when you look at and of course, those guys can get injured too and miss serious time too. But when you look at the present information, and the floor for Darren Peterson is, he is just a problem. He is absent. He's difficult to deal with potentially. And I don't want to be unfair because this was a concern when Ace Bailey came in, and it was not a founded concern.
Ended up being his one of his representatives being a bad actor. Yeah.
And it was just like there was no reason to have that concern. I think with Darren Peterson, there's a lot more smoke and visible fire. So would you rather have that or no one is going to make the case that Kingston Flemings is a better player, a more talented player in this draft than Darren Peterson, right? If both guys are available, every NBA team is probably going to take the risk on Darren Peterson because that's what every team chases. And maybe, just maybe, that's the right decision. But it feels to me like there's an equal likelihood or the absolute possibility that the better pick, even if the ceiling is not as high, is a Kingston Flemings type player because the floor is not as low.
You were making the cross comparison with football and how in football you do go with the durable guy because I think a lot more players has a big factor with that, but also you can make up in scheme and just guys working really hard, working their butts off and just being available. You can make up for the lack of, talent upside with that in football much more than you can in basketball.
I don't even think that people go for the durable guy enough.
Yeah. But I was gonna mention Louis Riddick was on the Dan Patrick Show NFL Draft Week, and he had a very interesting quote on there. And I'm not going to be able to quote it word for word, so we're paraphrasing here. He said, "The draft is for NFL is a risk assessment exercise for front offices," and so he gave the example of that's probably why Aaron Donald wasn't a first round pick when he was absolutely a first round talent coming out of Pittsburgh, and he showed in his NFL career he's maybe the best defensive tackle we've ever had, one of the best defensive linemen the game's ever seen. How'd that guy not be a first-round pick? Well, his measurables he was way too small to be a first-round pick, right? And he's like, that's why. So GMs and team presidents will say, okay, we see the tape, we see how good a player is. If the measurables also add up, I'm less likely to be fired if this guy doesn't work out because I can always blame it on the guy with the measurables and say, well, it's his fault. It's not the pick was the right pick. He didn't live up to it, right? I feel like the NBA is most of the time, it's certainly in the lottery, they act the exact opposite. They say, well, everything's telling us from an injury history standpoint, everything's telling us this guy is not the right guy to pick. But his upside, what we've seen on the tape, shows he could be the best player in this draft. It's like the exact opposite in basketball. It's so interesting.
Which is what measurables is a term that's used all the time, and it is actually hilarious to me that evidence on film is not considered a measurable that trumps other measurables.
That's tangible.
It's like, but what that is measurable. That is evidence. We have seen it. It's concrete. Like if this was a court case, we could absolutely submit that as evidence.
We have video of the crime.
We have multiple angles of how Ruben Bain perpetrated these crimes against opposing offensive linemen, and you're worried about his arm length because we haven't had a lot of people be successful with arms that short. I'm glad you brought up Aaron Donald. Aaron Donald, the reports out there that Aaron Donald was playing his final couple of seasons where he was incredibly dominant. He was playing at a playing weight of like 270 pounds, meaning he was giving up 30 pounds plus to every offensive lineman. He was 30 plus pounds lighter than every interior defensive lineman in the league. If he was coming in from the draft at 270 pounds, people would have been like, you are not an lineman. You're not an interior lineman. You're a rush end, and you're too short for that, so you're like a 9th round pick. I know that there's not 9 rounds.
You're an undrafted free agent, yeah.
It's wild the way that we have in a talent evaluation process, we have decided that, especially in football, video evidence of how good you are at the game of football is not enough of a measurable.
But
It's insane.
It's like a fear, the way Louis Riddick put it on the Dan Patrick Show, and I'd never heard an analyst, particularly one like him that worked in front offices before, were in these draft war rooms. I've never heard anyone say out loud, we will pick the safer pick because we're afraid of losing our job if it doesn't work out. Over what should probably be a safer pick, because like you just said, OC, we have video evidence of, for example, Aaron Donald being the best player in college football at his position at Pitt. We're gonna bypass him in the first round because whoever at the tackle that year in that draft year, he's taller and weighs more, and his arms are longer. It's because we're afraid of losing our job. NBA, it's like we're afraid of losing our job if we don't pick this guy who has an injury history or who has some other issues, but because he might be the best player in the draft if everything works out. We will lose our job if that guy goes somewhere else and is a Hall of Famer. It's wild how it's like the exact opposite at the top of the NBA draft than it is in the NFL draft.
The Twitter poll is up. Would you rather have a fragile superstar or a durable borderline star? So far, 100% of the votes, a very limited sample, are on durable borderline star.
That's your vote, right? But there's one vote, and it's 100%.
We got a handful here.
Okay.
All right. Got to take a break here on ESPN 700. Make sure you tell your smart speaker to play ESPN 700. You can find us in podcast form at ESPN700sports.com, the on-demand section of the ESPN 700 app. You can search the Sean O'Connell Show wherever you get your podcasts, and they will have the Daily Dump as part of every single show. We're doing that next. And during the Daily Dump, a Festival of Teas giveaway. Forest Dale is the course today. We're giving away rounds of golf here on the Sean O'Connell Show and on the Drive with Spence Checketts every single day, courtesy of the Utah Golf Association and Mountain Home Services. So we'll do that next on Utah's #1 sports talk, ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM. All right. I told you we're going to give away a Festival of Tees round of golf. Forest Dale. Everyone has a story at Forest Dale. 9-hole golf course is the first course for a lot of new golfers and golfers in Utah. The house that George Von Elm built. I need to look up George Von Elm. I'm not familiar with George Von Elm.
So, courtesy of our guy Paul Pugmire, that's the reason I know about this guy. He is arguably he's like the OG great Utah golfer, George Von Elm. So
okay, all right.
He's on the short list of local golf Mount Rushmore guys.
Brought to you by the Salt Lake City Golf Corporation. Download SLC Golf app wherever you get your apps. Make tee times and get course updates at slcgolf.com. Forestdale, a free round at Forestdale, 877-353-0700. If you can tell me the percentage of games Joel Embiid has missed in his NBA career, of the total available games since he entered the league, what is the percentage that he has missed since joining the league? We just were talking about this. 877-353-0700. Daily Dump is brought to you by our friends over at Valley Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling. Air conditioning problem? The truck with the duck has you covered. Plumbing problem? Boom. They got you covered there as well. Anything you need. Let's see. Vegas versus Anaheim, Game 2 tonight. Coverage begins at 7 on ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM. We are your home of the Stanley Cup playoffs. Here's a feel-good story for you, all right? There's a couple of them in today's Daily Dump. You're familiar with the fan-friendly prices at the Delta Center? The progenitor of this concept, the first major arena that did this, was actually the Atlanta Falcons Stadium. Mercedes-Benz Stadium was, to my knowledge, the very first big-time major sports stadium that introduced the fan-friendly pricing. Arthur Blank, the owner, talked about how he feels like, people pay a lot of money to get to the game. We're going to make it possible for you to bring your whole family to the game. It's the same reason that Smith Entertainment Group has adopted these things, and some other teams around the leagues have as well. But Arthur Blank and the Atlanta Falcons, they've been doing this for years. I actually went and watched our guy Eric Weddle play an away game in Atlanta against the Falcons, and it was $2 for a hot dog, $2 for a soda, $3 for nachos. It was great. You spend $40 at the concession stand, you feed the whole row of your friends and family. It's good news, right? Well, we have seen all of these terrible, terrible stories about price increases, price gouging, especially as it's associated with the upcoming World Cup, which, of course, is being played here in the United States, Canada, Mexico. It's a North American World Cup. I've had several Daily Dump hits on how much hotel rooms are costing, how much flights are costing. The most ridiculous stuff is like the metro tickets, because in places like New York, where games are going to be played at like a MetLife Stadium or whatever, it's a lot easier if you jump on public transportation, right? And it's supposed to be a lot cheaper if you jump on public transportation. In that case, they're charging like $150 to jump on the subway, basically, to get to MetLife Stadium. It's just bad news. They're pricing soccer fans out of an ability to go see the World Cup, and they're making it a corporatized event.
And by the way, in New York City area in particular, and LA too, San Francisco, some of these other places where the games are being played, those big worldwide cities, those are the areas that people are already spending tens of thousands of dollars probably for flight and lodging from all over the world for the right to be there, and then you're gonna charge them. You're gonna price gouge them on public transit too. It's terrible.
Let's see, New Jersey Transit, $150 round trip fare. Normally that's $13. Boston Transit, express buses and commuter rail options.
Shout out to the T.
To go to Gillette Stadium, $95 plus, 4 times higher than usual. Just bad news, right? But guess what? Our hero of concessions affordability, Arthur Blank, Mercedes-Benz Stadium, City of Atlanta, great place to go catch a game.
They get to keep the Mercedes-Benz logo on the top of their stadium.
The only arena that gets to keep its on-stadium branding as Mercedes-Benz. He is keeping his fan-friendly prices for the World Cup games. You could still, you have spent.
How much higher is the fan-friendly prices at Falcons games than the mountain menu prices at Jazz games?
Effectively the same.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Shout out.
Yeah, they're really it's kind of like the legendary story of the Costco hot dog.
Yeah.
They don't make money on that effectively, right? And they've had leadership changes. The founder of Costco, when the new guy came in, said, "You keep the hot dog at $1.50 or I'll kill you." He said that. That's important to Costco, and these prices are important to Arthur Blank and the Atlanta Falcons organization.
Or I'll kill you.
I love this, man, because this is also sets up a pretty funny scenario, right? Where you have spent like $5,000 per seat for your World Cup soccer tickets. You got a nice right front row, second row, third row, midfield ticket. You spent this insane amount of money on it. You're just like, I'm going to go get a beverage. And you're probably preparing yourself for this to be insane price gouging, where it's going to be like, I'm going to go spend another $500 on nachos. And you walk up there and they're just like, that'll be $8 for your soda, your hot dog, and your nachos, sir. People are going to be completely thrown off.
It's too bad there's not any games happening at the Coastal Carolina Chanticleer Stadium. Aren't they the ones that had free concessions this last year?
They did that, didn't they?
That's just too bad we don't have any games on Myrtle Beach.
Let's see what the actual fan-friendly price is. Mercedes-Benz Stadium. They call it the fanfare menu. Hot dogs are $2. Soft drinks with unlimited refills are $2. Pretzels are $2. Bottled water is $3. Nachos are $3, as is a slice of cheese pizza.
Does sound very similar to the mountain menu at the Delta Center.
Domestic beer is $5 for a small, $9 for a large. Chicken tendies and fries, $6.
That's way to go, Arthur Blank.
I'm very excited for the first Argentine millionaire soccer fan that comes in, or because this is not making the news in whatever sports talk radio they're listening to in Buenos Aires, right? That person gets on their private jet. They fly to Atlanta. They're hanging out. They spent the $50,000 on the field side ticket, and then they go. They're just like, wait a second, this is $6. These chicken tendies are $6. It's going to be a major pleasant surprise for everyone. Good on you, Arthur Blank.
By the way, I always love saying Arthur Blank's name out loud because it sounds like you're saying blank, like Arthur Bleep.
His name is Arthur Blank.
But that's actually his name.
Good news with a local flair here. Kyle Van Noy. He's an unrestricted free agent currently. He is exploring return talks with the Baltimore Ravens. He wants to be a Raven. Or, James, here we go. He also has interest in becoming a San Francisco 49er.
Because he's great friends with Fred Warner, right? That's it, right?
I'm sure there's other reasons why he wants to go play in San Francisco. Kyle Van Noy, let's make that happen, San Francisco 49ers.
I love that you have to love former BYU linebackers because you're a San Francisco 49ers fan and a BYU legendary quarterback. You just have to love them because of their Niners.
It's a very strange juxtaposition of I'm not supposed to, I don't want to root for Fred Warner's alma mater, but I'm definitely rooting for Fred Warner. And Kyle Van Noy has just been incredible in his NFL career. He's got a really fascinating story. Also, fun fact, his father-in-law used to work here. Did you know that, James?
I did not know that.
Yeah. Yeah, his father-in-law used to be a sales guy for ESPN 700.
I thought you were going to say it was the Van Noy show
No.
on ESPN 700.
No, that's not. That would be his father-in-law.
It's
Is
his
not a Van
father-in-law.
Noy.
That's
Yeah.
right. His father, not his dad. His
Yeah.
father-in-law.
Yeah, his father-in-law, and his wife was like pseudo-famous for a second. She was a pageant gal, but the father-in-law worked here with us.
What's
Nice
he
guy.
doing now? We got a sales job over
No
there.
idea.
You've heard the
I
ads.
don't know.
I don't know.
I
I don't know
should
what his.
call him.
I don't know what his actual last name is. So it's not Mr. Van Noy, but what Mr.
Let me see if I have Jim's number.
Mr. Jim.
This is like 4 phones ago, probably. I don't. Oh,
Come back, Jim.
I do have it. I'm gonna text him.
Come on back.
I'm texting Jim. Hey, we were just talking about your son-in-law. Come back and work for us. Let's go.
Also, BYU sucks.
I'm-
Nah, we'll leave that.
Maybe
out.
leave that. Speaking of Atlanta, Ted Turner has passed away.
Yeah.
Ted Turner dead at 87.
Yeah. You know what's interesting about that? John Sterling, former Yankees voice, also passed away days ago at the age of 87. What is it about that?
I mean, what is it about being 87 years old?
People die when they're
It's-
old. That's what that's about.
This is not. Wasn't it like Jimi Hendrix and who's the heartthrob actor from like the 60s? What was his name? Streetcar Named Desire. What am I doing?
Mm.
I'm blanking
I'm
on
not
his name.
sure.
Hey,
There's the age. Are you talking about the 27?
yes.
Yeah. You also had Nirvana.
Yeah, Kurt Cobain.
Kurt Cobain died at
It's not like
27.
that, James.
Yeah,
it's not like
that.
It's not like what's going on with all
The
these legends.
87 curse.
The curse of 87. How's this happening?
No,
It's old age.
it's
It's the deterioration of cellular health in the human body.
yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, that's fine. That's
It's a big deal. Ted Turner. I mean, us that are sports fans, we know about TNT, right? That's
Yes.
We have that because of Ted Turner. You are many of you that are Braves fans out here. A lot of you are Braves fans because our guy Dale Murphy. Shout out to Murph, the other Murph OC. Because he was a Braves great, but also you got to watch people like Dale Murphy out here because Ted Turner decided to put Braves home broadcast on his TBS Superstation, is what it was called back in the day. So, yeah, a lot of impact on sports fans. Ted Turner
founded the cable news network CNN,
yeah,
first 24-hour cable news channel, and there's a great documentary about that called Anchorman 2.
yeah,
When they go 24-hour news.
documentary. Yeah, gave Dan Patrick his start. Dan Patrick's first job, I believe, at a major network was not ESPN. It was CNN as a sports guy. So, I mean, yeah, huge impact on sports. Ted Turner.
My boss, the new boss at the PFL, used to work for him, so I should probably send a text or something. Anyway, that's big news in the sports broadcasting world because, like we just said, CNN and TNT and the landscape of television changed dramatically because of Ted Turner, who has passed away at age 87.
Well, and how about for you personally? No true TV without Ted Turner and his.
You're telling me there'd be no
network.
Impractical Jokers without Ted Turner's life? That in itself is a legacy that you should be proud of leaving behind.
Absolutely. What? No channel that all of us have to only find one time a year during March Madness without.
Hey,
Unless you're a big Impractical Jokers fan.
you're telling me that there's no Carbonaro effect without Ted Turner? Wait, I don't mean to be disrespectful. It's always sad when someone dies, but
Absolutely.
a titan of the industry, he lived to be 87 years old. You've had a good run if you make it to 87 and you have the kind of success that man had. He also was a big-time philanthropist. He donated literally billions. Not like the idea of billions, literally billions of dollars to different charitable causes. So good for him. All right, got to take a break here. That's the end of the Daily Dump, brought to you by Valley Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning. Look for the truck with the duck to take care of everything. ValleyPlumbing.com to make appointments right online. Jeff Passan, I was on a podcast and he dropped something in that I think it does exist in Major League Baseball. It should exist in every other college and professional sports league. And I think it's our responsibility to push this initiative forward. I'll tell you what I'm talking about next on ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM. I don't know how I missed this. Maybe I'm really bad at this job. Jeff Passan informed me yesterday. I didn't know this. This is actually on the Rich Eisen show, which you can listen to right here on ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM. Rich asked him about the success or lack thereof of the ABS system, the automatic balls and strikes being called right now in Major League Baseball, which of course are, the system itself has been implemented pretty smoothly. Human umpire calls a strike or a ball. If pitcher, batter, catcher doesn't like the call, they can challenge. The challenge is rapid, automated, done. I don't know how I missed this part of it when they talked about the implementation. According to Jeff Passan on the Rich Eisen show, there is communication going on throughout the game between the home plate umpire and the human beings behind the ABS system operation. So it's not like the umpire calls a strike, the batter says, no, I don't think that was a strike. Then we get the little graphic, right? The little imaginary square. and the trajectory of the ball. Was it inside that square? Was it outside that square? If it's outside the square, batter wins the challenge, ball, okay. And the umpire, in every case, just has to eat that sandwich. Just like, oh, that sucks. I was wrong. But communication with the human beings behind it means that the umpire doesn't have to wait until he goes back post-game, watches the tape, evaluates his performance against the ABS system, and is just like, okay, I get it. I was calling it a little bit too far inside, a little bit too far outside. I was maybe an inch or two off, high or low. They're told that during the broadcast. They got a little chip. They got a little mic in the ear that they can just be like, okay, how far was I on that? Oh, that one was way off. You got to tighten it in, especially on that right side or especially on the inside corner or whatever it is. And so the umpire gets real-time feedback on how his mental strike zone compares to the ABS strike zone, and it dials it all in together. Like, this is how did I not know this was happening? Did you know this was happening, James?
I did not. You're telling me that baseball is the first to acknowledge that, hey, if we can improve officiating during the game, let's go ahead and do that.
This is why it can be so important for the rest of sports. The money is there, okay? I don't want to hear about, well, you can't pay another person watching from New York. You can't have another person sitting there and watching on a monitor. Yes, you can. In big-time college football, big-time college basketball, and, of course, in every single professional professional league, you absolutely can have a James Peterson sitting back there. He's got monitors. He's got different angles.
It really needs to be someone with zero officiating credentials whatsoever, too. They just know how to they just know how to use the technology. Well, Mr. 30-year umpire, I know you thought that was right, but you're actually like 5 inches off.
Our guy Todd Newcomb can do it, all right? But here's the thing. In baseball, it makes perfect sense. Your strike zone is a little bit wide today. Let's narrow this thing down a little bit, and then you'll match up.
We're going to be perfect by the 5th inning, guy. You and me. Let's go.
I mean, I really like that would be so helpful if you're the home plate umpire.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, how do you expand it out to, well, of course my mind went to football first, right? We see so many things on replay and they're just like, "Oh, this is a hold that was missed. Oh, this is an offside penalty that was missed. Oh, if you have a little earpiece, which they do, the head umpire does have an earpiece to communicate.
Yeah, it's not just a microphone to communicate with everybody in the stadium. He's able to communicate. They're able to give messages to him too.
If part of the role is, and this is like, it's a slippery slope, I acknowledge, but if you got to a point where you're just like, hey man, you know how that defensive end keeps coming to you and complaining about the left tackle holding? He is actually holding a lot. There's a lot of jersey pulling going on. There's a lot of like arm around the neck stuff going on. Maybe we can dial that back in with a flag here. All right, I'll keep a closer eye on it. I never want to see a situation where there's revision from headquarters of what the player or what the active officials are doing. But if you can be made a better football referee, hey, that matchup you have out there with the slot corner and that particular receiver, there's a ton of like hand fighting. There's some face mask grabbing and stuff like that. Keep a closer eye on it. That improves the game. You don't have to tell them, make sure you throw a flag here.
Yeah, because you don't want...
That was a hold. You need to go back and needed to adjudicate that. You need to take the yardage away. No. But if you have somebody who's back there monitoring and is saying, this is like, that's actually a penalty that we need to pay attention to. And then they pay more attention to it, and suddenly the game is officiated slightly more correctly. That's a win for all of us.
Yeah, I feel like this has the best applications with the strike zone in baseball, which, of course, Jeff Passan has told Rich Eisen is actually happening. Football games, I feel like hockey and basketball it's going to be it'll be a lot tougher because there's so much more continuous movement in those sports, particularly in hockey. During like free throws, you could have that kind of conversation with the Scott Foster. He's not going to listen anyway, but whatever. With the Zach Zarba an NBA official like that, there's plenty of downtime during free throws, timeouts to be like. Hockey, there's way less of that, so maybe there's not a great application for this. Maybe there's not enough downtime for this to really be applied in hockey. But the other three major sports here in North America, you can absolutely apply this. Chris Kamrani was on with Spence Checketts yesterday in the afternoon for an hour, and they were talking about how there's been a lot of missed calls that have gone against RSL in recent games, and they were complaining about how Kamrani was complaining about how like they have VAR, the replay system, and those guys are able to get into the ref's ears and be like, "Hey, we need to look at this," and yet they're still missing these things. You could absolutely do this in soccer too.
A missed call is something that we all expect, we all understand, we all accept. Multiple missed calls against your favorite team, against a team that you're betting on, against a team, like multiple missed calls do diminish the quality of a sports viewing experience for you. Multiple missed calls. I don't want any one of us to expect perfection from any official. But if we can dial things in and get them a little bit closer and coach them up as it's going, and never make those conversations public, never make that a thing that everyone gets to hear, never make that a thing. But, like, also it would help evaluating officials for their assignments. Like, hey, this guy, we have to talk to him a lot about stuff that's being missed. Like, this person is bad at this. So don't put him on the big games.
Let's put him in the G League for a while, okay?
G League him. Anyway, Jeff Passan, even though you look like a ventriloquist dummy, you are really excellent at your job, and I appreciate you bringing us information that we should have known but didn't. Rich Eisen Show is available, by the way, right before my broadcast on ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM.
Yeah, and I'll just end it with this. I love that baseball has come up with a way to improve officiating during the game. I'm with you. It feels like let's do that with the other sports too.
And they did it in a way that didn't slow the game down aggressively, didn't hurt the viewing experience of the game. It really didn't. Like, I saw it first at a Bees game. I've seen it plenty of times in Major League Baseball. I went to a Cubs game when we had fights in Chicago earlier this year and saw it in practice there. It's 40 extra seconds a game. It's nothing. It's great. All right. Got to take a break. We go between the pipes with Adrian Denny next. Utah Mammoth exit interviews done. Did Adrian hear anything from Bear or Bill Armstrong or the captain that he needs to talk about on the air? We'll find out on ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM. Welcome back to the Sean O'Connell Show. Welcome in our friend Adrian Denny, Utah Mammoth Insider, brought to you by Aladdin Industries and Valley Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling. He joins us here in studio. It's always great to see you, sir. How are you?
Hey, Sean. How's it going, man?
I'm doing all right. Look, not the end that we wanted, not the timing we wanted to have it end for this Utah Mammoth season that's been so incredible, but you've had a few days to process now what we saw against the Vegas Golden Knights, and especially in that final game at home. Give me your thoughts on the playoffs first. We'll get back to the whole season here in a second.
Yeah, I mean, I think when it all ended on Friday night, you're just never ready for it. You know, as you said, there's the big picture, there's the overhead view of it, but when it ends, you're just never quite ready. Like, you walk into the arena, you're ready for a game, and then when you walk out of the arena, it's over. It's done. Season's finished.
It's over.
It's a weird feeling, and that's, I think, every series in the Stanley Cup playoffs outside of LA and Colorado you could look at and say, well, if there's a different bounce this way, that way, if this team closes this out, series could flip, which is what makes it so fun. So for the Mammoth, I think they look at it as, they played well, led in 5 of the 6 games, had a couple games they didn't close out, wish they could have and could still be playing, but that's hockey. I think everybody that loses feels like they could have won the series, and they could have. It's just all about what's the score at the end.
If there is an extra sting, and I think there probably is on some of those losses, it's that 3 third-period leads were squandered in this series. Now, again, it was an awesome season. They're kind of on pace to where I think they're supposed to be as a franchise. It would have been maybe a little ahead of schedule if they had won this series, but they certainly had a shot to do it. And when they're so tantalizingly close, I mean, 52 seconds away from going up 3-1, which changes the entire dynamic, and we've already talked about that. But how much attention will be paid to that as they're evaluating what to do with the roster, what tweaks to make, how to practice next year, that they squandered those leads?
President of Hockey Operations Chris Armstrong led off his postseason media availability yesterday with how disappointed we are that we're not playing, and was very transparent that we wish we were still playing. We've got work to do to get ready for next season. And Andre Cherney was talking about the third period leads, the power play, got 1 goal in 6 games, and he said, those are 2 things that we'll focus on as a group, as coaching staff, as players, as management team, as an analytical group, and we'll figure it out. That's what happens when we have things that we need to fix. We get together as a group and we figure it out, and we get it on the right track and get it rolling. Power play in the third period were 2 things that really came up there. At the same time, Chris Armstrong circled back to Vegas and said they're a heck of a team. They're a playoff season team. They're high pressure. They came from behind almost 15 times in the regular season in the third period to win games. So the opposition did have, a say in what happened, but being fully transparent, those are a couple of things that they're looking at going in. I will always point back to, in the Stanley Cup playoffs, leads aren't really leads. 50% of the teams that score first win, 50% of the teams that fall behind win. But when you're that close, 50 plus seconds away, it hurts. But the games that they led in, they trailed in 4 of the 5. So, but that I think, just going through it, and you know how it is when you're on a losing team. I can't say that you've ever been on a losing team, but
I'm on more of those than I have been on winning teams.
But when you're on a losing team and you're just kind of going through a losing season, it just kind of happens, and you win a game, and it feels like, oh, we just won a game, and it's a huge celebration. But when you're on a winning team, you expect to win. And winning doesn't quite have, the exhilaration as when you're on a losing team, because you expect to win, but losing kills you. The losses are harder than the wins are fun. So Utah coming out of this, they're in pain and they know what it is and they want to get back there. And the other thing, OC, talking about goals for next year, the players, Bear and Bill and Chris, were all fully out in front of, well, we made the playoffs this year and we got to get back there next year. That's the standard that we want to have. And just because we made it this year, that's not necessarily a given for next year. We got to come out. We got to work harder. It's going to be harder to get back. 10 of the 16 teams that made the playoffs last year made them this year. So really, the 2 Stanley Cup finalists in Toronto, 3 top teams, were in the playoffs this year. So they're not jumping ahead that now we have to win a round. It's we got to get back in there. And when you're back in there, then you win your round.
We've already talked about this, but there's always these cliches you throw. Hey, playoff basketball is different.
Mm-hmm.
Tournament basketball is different. Playoff hockey is different. And you could see it.
Yeah.
The urgency, the speed, the physicality of every single shift. And we saw in this Vegas versus Utah matchup especially, like, the speed and sort of skill advantage that Utah had manifesting itself in certain scenarios, sometimes to great success. You also saw some of the situations in which the size and physicality of Vegas was maybe like you could fall into, well, that's maybe more necessary for playoff hockey. So looking at how the way this thing played out and looking at those things specifically, is a change needed for this team to not only get to the playoffs, but to be successful in playoff hockey? Or can they just refine their speed, their skill, their shot precision, etc., to a level where even physical disadvantages don't manifest themselves the same way?
Talking to Nick Olczyk yesterday, he felt that size is one thing for the Mammoth that if they could add a piece or two that from a size standpoint, he felt that would be big. Bill Armstrong's identified that from day one. As you look back at every draft pick that he's made since 2021, it's 6 feet tall or longer.
Yeah.
So it's in the pipeline. It's coming. The 6 first-rounders that we talk about, and the goalie, who's also a second-rounder, Michael Robel, the goalie, he's 6'4", right?
Yeah.
There's lots of size in the pipeline that's on the way. Utah also being without McBain and Hayton, that's one thing. Bear, he was very navigational mentioning that yesterday, but it's one thing that stood out to me, how much they just kind of missed the crash and burn of McBain and Barrett Hayton too. But for me, going into the offseason with this roster, you want everybody back. I don't think you usually end a season you're like, we want everybody back. I think they want everybody back, but do you always get everybody back? No, because Utah is got business decisions to make. These players that are free agents are going to get contracts from other teams tossed at them, teams that have, more desperation to add pieces and going to throw more term in terms of years of length of contracts, more money, just because they're in more desperate situations, while Utah is going to stay in 100% calculated in everything that they do. And you've seen the free agents that they've signed: Kevin Stenlund to a 2-year contract a couple years ago, Nate Schmidt 3 years, Brandon Tanev 3 years, the Kyler Yamamoto on the year-to-year deal. So Utah wants everybody back, but realistically, you're still looking at your big picture in what you want to do in terms of tying up term on contracts, salary cap space. But with the prospects that are in the pool and coming up, that's not going to affect anything that they do. They're still going to aggressively try and sign their free agents, aggressively go after the market, but within that business plan. And if one of your 6 first-rounders comes in and wins a spot, all the better.
In listening to the player exit interviews and guys that their future's up in the air being asked about it, all of them were like, well, I want to be here. And you'll see this in the NBA. You'll see this with other NHL teams. You'll see this as part of kind of the exit process for professional sports, where inevitably someone's asked, hey, your contract's up. What do you think about your future? And you'll hear guys give like kind of a coach speak, like a non-committal answer, or occasionally people are like, well, I love it here. I want to stay here. I don't remember a time when I heard every person that was asked that question give what I felt like was a genuine and definitive, I would prefer to be here than anywhere else, effectively. Not in those exact words, but basically expressing that sentiment. I think it's a testament to the culture of the team, to what Smith Entertainment Group has built, and I think a recognition. These guys are all hockey players. They know, like, if I'm here, we're going to be winning.
Yeah. Everything you just said right there, starting with inside the locker room, it's a good culture. The guys talked about Bear in their exit interviews and how demanding he is and how high his expectations are for everybody, but how there's the human aspect of it, the way he treats them as people first. That several guys brought up how he, talks to him in the morning, goes into the breakfast room, says, hey, how are things going? And then Bear says, yeah, I do that. And then we go into the video room and it's business. And I'm showing video and I'm saying, you didn't do this and that's your job. And our standards here are what you see. We're in this facility. We're playing in a full house. You see how well we're supported by management and ownership. We have to deliver here. And it's not personal, but you have to do your job. And that's what the guys really appreciate about Bear, is how much he cares about them as people. But when they're down to business, it's, you got a job to do. And then you look at the training facility, best in the NHL. We've talked about it before. This is a great place to live, and the guys appreciate that, and it's worked out really well. And we've talked about how they're all scattered about into various areas of town based on what fits them. That's another great thing about Salt Lake. For instance, the LA Kings all live at Manhattan Beach, right? That's where their players have gravitated to. And here, you have different areas of town in the valley that the guys gravitate to because it feels like home. So all that being said, making the playoffs, liking the job that they're coming into every day, the boss, the facility, and enjoying what they did this year and wanting more of that at the Delta Center.
There was conversation kind of mid-season that, Bears' future was maybe less than certain. And obviously they made the playoffs. How safe is Bear Turney's job?
I think everybody's really happy with the job he did. And there's social media. There's everybody with a voice. Everybody's entitled to an opinion. It's great thing about.
They certainly are, but only like 4 of those opinions actually matter for his future.
Sure.
So
yeah. So you get the noise.
Yeah.
And I'll be honest, the noise in the last week has been from what I've seen, like, oh, I wasn't sure about Bear, maybe one way or the other, but I really liked how he ran things in the playoffs and handled his postseason media. And so I think, that the noise out there, like when the team was struggling in November, December, is actually watched how the season played out and thought, oh, he did a heck of a job. He's a heck of a coach. He's a good man. He's got a plan. He's, well read on what he's doing here. So that's how I've felt the public perception in the last 3-4 days, and I think, you know, when you're in the facility and you see it every day, I think he's in a good spot. He's got 1 year left on his contract. One thing that Bear said that he kind of evolved in this year, which kind of along the same lines, right? You look down at the bench and the team's down 4-2, and you're not seeing Bear freaking out. And one thing he said this year that he really focused on as an emotional guy, as a vocal guy, as a passionate guy, was staying even-keeled on the bench. Because when your boss is freaking out,
you don't want your leadership losing it.
It affects everything. The composure of the players is affected. They're focusing on other external things that you can't do anything about. And Bear said as he focused on that approach, he saw his leaders kind of taking over in various situations. And one thing, Monday night I'm watching that Ducks-Vegas game, and there was that perceived to be missed icing call, and Joel Quenneville, the head coach of Anaheim, and Jay Woodcroft, his top assistant, just started losing their minds that the play wasn't.
A lot of different guys you could build a case for. We got Clayton Keller's name came in, Logan Krause's name came in, Veggie's name came in. Schmaltz, I think, might be my favorite pick on there. Obviously, Dylan Guenther was your leading goal scorer, so there wasn't a consensus anywhere. But you have been closer to this team than anyone, and I think I know that you're going to have a hard time narrowing it down to one player, but who should we at least be considering as the team MVP?
Who do you think I'm going to take? OC, any ideas based on our last year together?
I think you might be on the same page that I'm on, in that Schmaltz was such an important player for this team. The case I made was that he came up so big in timely regular season wins. He probably could have had a better playoff. He came up so big in some of these timely regular season games against elite competition when maybe Guenther's shot was off. Maybe you weren't getting everything you needed out of the captain. It felt like Schmaltz was the guy that in several different situations kind of pulled things along when the usual suspects were less than ideal. And that's probably where I came out on it, but I'm very curious to hear your thoughts.
100%. 33 goals, 74 points, 82 games. I think the favorite moment of Utah this year for the Mammoth, as we've heard from our fans on Mammoth Daily this week, was Schmaltz stripping the puck when Philly had that open net, and it's a 4-3 game. Keller scores 6-on-5 with the extra attacker. Guenther wins the game. But what Schmaltz did there, that was a huge point that sticks in our heads.
The hustle he showed just to poke check that thing away and to turn it back around was, I mean, it is the moment that decided the game, because if you get one more second to handle that puck, then it goes into the open net. It goes into the empty net, and that game ends and you lose. That right there, even if it wasn't the most impactful, important regular season matchup, all points were, of course, pretty important for this team in the playoff and the wild card race. But just the fact that you're still establishing who you are as a franchise, what your team identity is, and that it was just a good old-fashioned hustle play by a guy who everyone in the building would have been fine if he didn't make that play. No one would have been like, what's Schmaltz doing there? It wouldn't have been considered a massive mistake for missing that opportunity. But the fact that he demanded that effort from himself in that situation is a big reason why I think he's so important to what they're doing this year and, of course, moving forward.
That was a signature moment, him just stripping the puck away from Quinn Hughes right after the Olympic break when the Mammoth got that big win against Minnesota. He was just there for everything that Utah was involved in. He's got the 8-year contract that starts next year. Mammoth weren't going to let him get to free agency, but really impressed with him. And I thought I thought, man, after the 2 playoff games where Keller, Schmaltz, and Krause didn't have any goals, in games 3, 4, 5, and 6, they really played the best that I've ever seen them before. And they were a top 10 line in the NHL during the regular season, but there was just kind of that playoff jam, just kind of that look in their eyes. And I couldn't have been more impressed with Schmaltz, Keller, and Krause in the first round. And I think it's a great sign of things to come for the Mammoth that those 3 guys who had never played playoff hockey in front of fans before, well, Schmaltz had 4 games his rookie season, but were up to the moment. And as the series went on and as things got harder, they adjusted to it and made sure they were still factors.
Looking at the rest of the league now, where you obviously don't get to root for the hometown team anymore, the Mammoth are out, but lots of stuff going on around the NHL. You've got playoffs where the Colorado Avalanche, they've won 9 games straight now, and they're undefeated so far in these playoffs. I don't know if anyone is going to be able to slow them down, but as you're evaluating these second-round series, what are you liking? What are you questioning? What do you think?
First of all, I'm totally wrong about what I thought was going to happen in the Avs Wild series. I thought Minnesota would at least get a split. The way that they took care of Dallas, I thought, oh boy, this team's going straight to the Stanley Cup final. And I don't usually get that feeling after a round of playoff hockey. And I guess we know why, because the Avs came out and controlled a couple of games, and now Colorado looks like they're the fast track team. I really thought Minnesota with Quinn Hughes, and they made some big additions, and they allowed 1 5-on-5 goal to Dallas in 6 games. I was really impressed with that series. And then Colorado, the team with the best record all year, comes out and jumps up 2-0. To me, that series looks like it's in pretty good control. Vegas, Anaheim. I thought Vegas would win that series because of why they beat Utah, just kind of that experience. And they said they really didn't like their game the other night when they beat Anaheim in game 1, but the Ducks kind of hung tough there. I still think that's a Vegas series for the same reason that I just said. They beat Utah. Buffalo, Montreal seems like it could be crazy. Like Montreal, Tampa Bay just played a 7-game series. All 7 games decided by a goal. 4 of them went to overtime. To me, that feels like a series like that coming up. And then our default sweep, Carolina, Philly, probably ends in 5.
What method does the NHL use to manipulate their draft lottery to give it the first overall pick to Toronto? Is it freezing the ping pong ball? Is it making it a slightly less dense ping pong ball? Obviously, I say that somewhat tongue-in-cheek, but that was big news last night. At the NHL draft lotteries, we await an NBA draft lottery here in the state of Utah. The NHL draft lottery, you got Toronto with the number 1 overall pick. The last 2 times they've missed the playoffs, I know you know this. The last 2 times they've missed the playoffs, they've won the draft lottery. Last time it was Austin Matthews, and now he's threatening to leave. So, oh, hey, look, things are getting better for you here, Austin. I don't know, man. I'm a conspiracy guy on this.
As our old friend Steve Klauke used to say, never a dull moment. They had the most bizarre press conference I've ever seen in my entire life on Monday when they named John Chayka general manager. And then I didn't see the lottery because we were doing some Mammoth Daily stuff. And I get a text, and I said, they did not win it, did they? And they won it. As the world turns in Toronto. So, gosh, some teams just have it, man. Like San Jose picking 2nd overall for the 2nd straight year.
More problematic for the Mammoth.
Good night, man. And
that sucks.
They've already got Macklin Celebrini, 1st overall. Will Smith, 3rd overall. Michael Misa, 2nd overall from last year. Now they're going to get another one. Oh, that's the one that really that really
That one hurts because they had a 5% chance of getting the second overall pick. Did the San Jose Sharks, and they got it.
That being said, got to remember Utah won the lottery last year, jumped up 10 spots.
That's right.
Caleb Denoye, which is a huge piece to have. So I guess it's pretty similar. One of the first teams out, San Jose, jumps up, wins the lottery. That's why they call it gambling, I guess.
Denoye, he scored a couple goals for Moncton. Was that right?
Yeah, he had a goal and 2 assists in their Game 7 win yesterday, and another prospect for Utah, Gabe Smith, a 4th overall pick, is popping in some goals too. He's a big kid. Size. 6'4". He fought in the preseason, but both those guys, I think you could expect to be in camp and be a factor, and if not, start their pro careers in the AHL.
So it's an exciting time, even though it's a little melancholy for this team to be out of the playoffs now. From a realism perspective, is this now a staple playoff team? I know we already talked about it. It's not just you can't assume you're going to be there. They have to plug some holes. I think they need a new backup goaltender, et cetera. But is this, now that they know what it feels like, the franchise has been here before, is this something that we should be expecting for the foreseeable future?
Should be expecting it. Yeah. Doesn't mean they're going to make the playoffs 10 straight years. Tampa Bay had a year in the middle of all of this where they just didn't make the playoffs. They had a decent year and just didn't make the playoffs. It's I don't want to draw a comparison to the NFL, but it's you don't have the same teams every year. As I said, 10 to 16, but that's the goal, that's the expectation, and that's why I think it was really really smart of Bill and the players keeping the expectation of, we want to get in the playoffs next year versus saying we want to win a playoff round next year, because they know how hard it is going to be to get back in it, because you're going to have San Jose with a second overall pick that could potentially be there. You've got a team like Winnipeg, who had the best record in the NHL last year and didn't make the playoffs. They're going to try and make a push to get back into it. So, I don't see a lot. I mean, you just don't know. I don't see a lot of. There's more Eastern Conference pieces out of the playoffs this year that you can see getting back in. In the West, you don't see as many, if any, but there's always somebody that comes out of nowhere and gets rolling. And San Jose is a team, OC. That's going to be a huge test for them next year to try and maintain that consistency that they had for most of this year when they were in a playoff spot for most of the year and then tailed off late.
That is Adrian Denny, Utah Mammoth Insider. Aladdin Industries and Valley Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling give you our conversation between the pipes with Adrian Denny every single week. We got to keep doing this through the Stanley Cup playoffs, right?
Heck yeah.
Yeah.
I'll be here.
We're not going to let them get out of here yet.
Yeah.
As long as they're playing hockey, baby.
Yeah, I'll be here.
All right. Plenty left to get to on the Sean O'Connell Show. We'll do a little crosstalk eventually. It's ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM. Welcome back to the Sean O'Connell Show. If you were listening at the beginning of the show, we were talking about these proposed calendar changes from the AFCA, the American Football Coaches Association, effectively gave us the single transfer portal window last year with this exact kind of proposal. Hey, let's do this, but just do it one time. 2 weeks, early January. It's going to be better for all of us. The NCAA world now is a lot more nimble with rule changes. They implemented the rule, and this past January is when we saw the first one. They also then followed up and said, hey, no loopholes. Ghost transfers, as they call them, are going to be heavily penalized. We're going to strike you down if you try to work your way around these rules.
If you charge more than $1.50 for a transfer, we will kill you. I'm sorry.
Is that a callback to the Costco hot dog conversation? So the AFCA proposes 4 major changes to the calendar. One of which is getting rid of conference championship games. Now, I put a poll question out there on Twitter at RealOC Sports. Is always how you get a hold of me on social. 877-353-0700 if you'd like to weigh in there. Are you in favor of getting rid of college football conference championship games? 55% say no. 45% say yes. There's merits to both of these arguments, right? For me, if I'm in the Big Ten or the SEC, I don't need a conference championship game, right? If I'm one of the top 4 teams in that conference, I'm probably getting an invite to the college football playoff anyway. If you're in the Big 12 and they say, hey, we're going to stay at 12 teams and you're going to get rid of a conference championship game, your conference champion from the regular season is going. Now, that's in a normal scenario where you don't have any weird ties, right? Where like, oh, I don't know, Texas Tech and BYU haven't played each other in the regular season and they both have the same conference record. And then they can just figure it out in a conference championship game. But we saw this last year. If BYU wins that conference championship game, they beat Texas Tech, then there's a strong chance or a stronger chance that the Big 12 actually gets 2 teams into the college football playoff. Now, ultimately, I don't know that that would have been good for anyone because then 2 teams maybe get blown out, whatever. But that's not how it played, right? You get rid of a conference championship game when you're in the Big 12, when you're in the ACC, and more the Big 12, really, if we're being honest with ourselves. You're de-emphasizing what has been for many years now, what is the high watermark of a season in this conference. When is the last time that a Big 12 champion won a national championship?
Isn't it Texas?
They're not in the
05?
conference anymore.
Yeah.
Right?
The last time a current Big 12 team won a national championship was that BYU's national championship?
Maybe.
I don't know, because Nebraska was another Big 12 team that won national championships before that. Oklahoma. Yeah.
College football national champions by year. Who am I missing? I do this all the time where I'm just like, it's been forever, and then someone inevitably texts in and is just like, well, what about this team? That was not so long ago. And I'm like, dang it, you're right. But it has been a little bit of obviously it's been a death grip for Clemson and or Big Ten and SEC teams going all the way back to 2013. That's when Florida State won it. That is not a Big 12 team, right? And then it's SEC. It's 2005. Big 12 Texas was the last team that was in the Big 12 conference, and now they're not in the Big 12 conference, right? You got to go a long way back. 95 Nebraska, 94 Nebraska.
Also now in the Big Ten.
Also in the Big Ten, right? Colorado in 1990.
There you go. Okay.
Colorado in 1990.
I was worried it was going to be 1984 BYU.
Okay.
That's the last one of the teams that are currently in the Big 12. Wow.
That's
still a very long time.
Okay, so, and again, Do I want BYU, Utah, Texas Tech, Arizona State to sell to people we're competing for a national championship? Yeah, you are. Okay? Yes, do it. The greatest seasons that Utah has had are conference championship seasons. The most memorable seasons you've had are conference championship seasons. And you could still win a conference championship without going to a conference championship game. You go back to the Mountain West days, no conference championship game. So oftentimes, final game of the season, BYU, whoever wins that one is your conference champion. I like those days. Those are great days. I don't like them as much as I like a trip to San Francisco for the Pac-12 championship game or a trip to Vegas for the Pac-12 championship game. Those are awesome, right? And I understand why the power players are just like, let's get rid of the conference championship games. The coaches who are especially influential coaches are in these power, and it's the top 2 teams in the ACC, and it's all the teams that matter in the Big Ten and the SEC that are just saying, like, we don't need to figure it out with a conference championship game. It's just an extra game on the schedule where you're playing in most cases now, a top 10 team. And then you're supposed to go be part of this college football playoff that we're also going to be in because we're part of this. Well, if you're in the Big 12, you're like, but we might not be in it if we don't have a conference championship game. You're like, shut up. You shut up over there, Big 12 guys. Be quiet.
We're not talking to you.
Get back in your corner. Be happy we gave you an automatic bid. Look what Texas Tech did with that automatic bid last year. You stink. And you just, you don't have much power or much of a case.
It's really aggressive in those rooms.
Yeah, they're angry. The AFCA coaching's representatives, they're angry. So they want to get rid of the conference championship game. I'm waffling back and forth on how much I support that. Now they want to get rid of the second bye week. Yes, please. I know coaches might not love that. For a fan, 2 bye weeks is one too many. Don't do it. They want to get rid of that? Fine. I will defer to the expertise of the coaches. They want to preserve an exclusive window for the Army-Navy game in December, but also asterisks allow postseason games to be played on the same day. That's not exclusive. If they're not by themselves, then it's not an exclusive date.
Okay, Big 12 guy, you're talking again? We don't want to hear from you yet, okay?
They want to reduce the minimum number of days between games to no fewer than 6. So no Saturday game, then Thursday game. Great. Wonderful.
Yeah.
This is not the NFL. Here's the deal. They also want to move the season start to week 0. They want to be done by the second week in January. They want the national championship game to be the second Monday of January. This is all a bowing down to the almighty transfer portal when it comes to the scheduling stuff, which I don't feel great about. But on the other hand, I applaud the coaching fraternity for saying, like, guys, let's be realistic about this. This is kind of the start of every season, is this January window, figuring out our roster with the transfer portal and deciding whether or not we have something good going on. I don't want that to be going on with 12 different bowl games in the background and with your national championship semifinalists, quarterfinalists, and eventual champs, the most relevant and important teams in the land, hitting pause on their roster construction. So a robust plan to change things around from a calendar standpoint, and I think sooner than later they will vote on this and they will pass, if not all of the reforms, they will pass most of these reforms, including pushing the season forward a week. Week 0 games will now be the week 1 games. Week 1 games happening in what we used to call week 0, and week 0 games will be week -1. And we're talking mid-August for those games.
Like the same time high school football starts.
And I've seen some pushback. Well, students aren't even on campus yet. Okay. And?
I mean, going back to the high school, my snarky high school comment I just made, there are fall sports that start in high school before the first day of school. Like there's soccer game, there's girls soccer games, there's volleyball games that that take place a few days before the first day of school.
Yeah, every high school season we had a game before the season or the school year began. Also, you know when else students aren't on campus? During all of bowl season. And
how about the College World Series? They've been out of school for like a month. The baseball teams and the softball teams.
I fully acknowledge that you want to maximize the student section and the participation of the actual student in these things, but let's not pretend that the schedule in college football is catered toward the fans. It's for the television networks.
Yeah, and the postseason of every sport except for basketball, and I guess the winter sports. Those are the only postseasons where school is actually still going. Like, this is not the spring and fall semesters. Postseasons are going on. School is typically out.
I mean, yeah, right now the national championship games, the semifinal and quarterfinal games, the New Year's Six games are played on your break.
Yeah,
you're not on campus, and people are like, "Well, yeah, we don't care about that because you're not playing on your home campus. You're going all over the place." Like, yeah, but you still expect the fans to be there. You still expect there to be fans there.
I'm sorry, do I not see a bunch of Taco Bell graphics every time they talk about the students on every one of those games? Is that not the Taco Bell student section?
At the end of the day, if it is a better television plan, then it is a better plan for the calendar. If it works with ESPN, ABC, CBS, if it works with your broadcasting partners, then it's going to work. And the coaches just want to be able to separate their transfer portal from their actual practices. That's what they really want. Please don't make us do all of this at once. Remember 2 years ago, when there was a December transfer portal window, the early signing period, which has become the main signing period, and college football playoff and bowl games and all this stuff happening all at once. If you were a football coach in that time, you had literally no moments in your day that you could just be like, "Hey, honey, how are you? Are the kids still doing well?
Still alive?
I'm sorry I haven't been home for 7 straight days. It's just that I'm trying to convince this kid to not enter the transfer portal, while also convincing a kid at another school to enter the transfer portal, while also
wink.
telling a high school kid that we're going to give him $500,000 to come here, while also doing film prep and coaching my guys because we have a meaningless bowl game or we have a very meaningful bowl game. Oh, also, I'm interviewing for other jobs right now. All of that was happening all at once. Bananas.
I'll say this. I am in general, I do agree with getting rid of conference championship games in general. There are some specifics about it that you outline, OC, that it's like, I don't know if I want that to be the case necessarily. But in general, I'm okay with it. The other alternative I'd like to have is, I believe what they do in the American Conference is that instead of the tiebreakers being, based on conference record and win percentage against common opponents and those kind of things that we're used to seeing, the 7-step tiebreakers we're used to seeing, they just go, the tiebreaker is whoever is the highest ranked team in the college football playoff rankings. They're the ones in line. They're the ones first in line to make the conference championship game. If we're going to keep conference championship games, I'd like all the conferences to do something like that so we do not have to have convoluted tiebreakers and we don't have Duke winning the ACC. and not going to the college football playoff.
Yeah.
And Virginia, instead of Virginia and or Miami going to the playoff last year, it's Miami goes in over maybe a more deserving, in a lot of people thought maybe a more deserving Notre Dame team or whatever, right?
But then they played all the way to the national championship.
Yeah, so
game,
it worked out fine.
But also, remember when we were like, "Hey, is 12 teams the right number? Maybe it's 16." They're leapfrogging right over. They're going 24, baby, which you won't hear me complain too much about because that's what the FCS does, and it works out nicely for them. One last break, and then we'll do a little crosstalk with Spence Checketts and turn things over for the drive. ESPN 700, 92.1 FM. Crosstalk is brought to you by our friends at Advanced Window Products, 801-850-9100 for $2,500 off 10 windows or more. Lifetime warranty on the windows. They'll even take care of your window coverings. Nate Orchard, Jake Weber and Company, tell them OC sent you. It takes about 6 weeks from when they come out and they give you the bid, they measure the windows, to then they manufacture them and install them. That's about a 6-week window there. Get it? Window. So you're into July. Get on the schedule now. 801-850-9100. The Drive with Spence Checketts is up next, and here he is right in front of me.
You look very presentable today.
Oh, I went this morning to the Brighton High School signing day.
Oh, okay.
My little my little nephew, I'll call him.
Shout out.
My guy Grady Bell is going to Southwestern College in L.A. or in San Diego, excuse me. And he's continuing his football career, and I love the dude, and I'm very proud of him. And they invited me to come down and see it, so I thought I'd put on a shirt.
Yeah, I mean, you're a handsome guy no matter what.
Obviously.
But there are a few days where you roll in, and it's like, man, my guy was on daddy duty. He barely got clothes on to come do the show. And today you look like prime bouncer, Park City Live.
Oh, yikes.
Yeah, you're looking like you're in good shape. You got the pythons showing. You got the tat showing.
You know, this particular brand of shirt, they make the belly have extra fabric so no one sees your belly.
Okay.
And then they make the sleeves small and the chest small so it looks like you're muscular.
Well, you are muscular. Did you get targeted on social, or did you go try that on?
I think my wife got targeted on social.
Okay.
Like, stop being married to a dad bod.
Well, it's funny you bring that up. One of the things that started to depress me a few years back, and it's like, dude, you got to go get in shape, was I started getting targeted by, like, hey, dad bod, check out this shirt. It's like, stop spying on me, phone.
Yeah, well, I'm being targeted by the algorithm right now with this one particular brand of deodorant. They don't advertise with us. But it's like one of the brand new, like, lotion deodorant things or whatever.
Yeah.
They're just like, get this deodorant. And I'm like, How can you tell through the
Leave-
phone that I smell bad?
Yeah, leave me alone. It's rude.
I have good hygiene.
And it's also a fine line. Like when, if you decide to start wearing like form-fitted shirts, it's kind of like the friend that gets divorced and he goes and hits the gym and he thinks he's ready for the shirt and he shows up at dinner with the shirt on. You're like, dude, first of all, proud of you for exercising. Keep doing that. But you're not ready for that shirt. You've got about 3 or 4 months before you can actually wear the form-fitted shirt. But yeah, when you start getting start getting targeted by aggressive dad bod clothing, you're like, man, I'm not old enough to have dad bod yet. So anyway, good solid shirt game for you today.
Well, thanks. Let me ask you something, then I'll get out of your way.
All good.
Would you rather have a fragile megastar or a reliable, durable, always playing, like borderline star, like a one-time NBA All-Star versus a Joel Embiid?
That's a really good question. I'm always like give me the talent guy and let's figure it out. And, I've told this story a few different times over the past couple of weeks because Dave Blitzer was in town for the Messi game.
Yeah.
And, of course, as a basketball guy, I wanted to talk about the Sixers, talk about, what the deal was currently with them. And they have Embiid left 3 years max money. And it's a ton of money to pay a big that is aging and hasn't stayed healthy. And so I just kicked the time. I'm like, where are you at with Embiid? And he said, look, we're going to ride with him because we believe if we can have one spring window with him, we can beat anybody in the league. The problem is they've never had one. And honestly, like game 1 against the Knicks, he looked hurt. He couldn't run. Karl Anthony Towns is running circles around him.
And now he's out.
Yeah, exactly. So for me, I mean, I want the most talented player possible, but there's a case to be made on the other side for a guy that simply just is reliable and shows up. And then best case scenario, right, is a guy like LeBron who is about to turn 42 and is still playing deep into the spring every year. I mean, Oklahoma City has shown a masterclass in how you do this. There are dudes that you've never even heard of that come off the bench and drop 12 and shut down Isaiah Joe, calm down, dude. You're not supposed to be this good at basketball. They're so freaking deep. They're without their second best player, and that game last night wasn't even close. If I had to choose based off the spirit of the poll question, I still would take the superstar because everybody in pro basketball always points to the Pistons in 2004. It's like, congratulations, you found one team in the last 40 years that didn't have one of the top 4 players in the league that won a championship. You have to have that. And it really brings into a conversation about who the Utah Jazz are. We'll see what the lists look like when they come out next year. The Jazz might not have one top 20 player in the NBA. They might have 2 like top 25-ish guys with Lowry and Jaren Jackson Jr. And that's why Sunday the lottery is so paramount, because if you can get a top 3 pick, maybe you finally find the thing that you have to have if you want to win a championship.
Yeah, it's funny because my initial reaction to even my own question there is just like, I don't want a fragile anything.
Right.
Give me the guy who's going to show up and be there. But also, the Utah Jazz, the prime time of the Utah Jazz, the prime era of the Utah Jazz, had megastars that were the most durable things that have ever come through the NBA.
Yep.
And it didn't guarantee anything because of the talent on the other side of that equation.
Right.
Because they had, they were going up against a basketball god, and they were basketball demigods.
Yeah.
And it's just like, sorry.
Yeah.
Your talent or your durability and talent put together are awesome, but that is a supernova, and there's nothing you can do against it.
Yeah, you're right. And Mike did that to the Knicks. He did that to the Jazz. He did that to the Sonics. He did that to the Suns. Charles Barkley, Sean Kemp, Gary Payton, Karl Malone, John Stockton, Patrick Ewing, Jeff Van Gundy, Jerry Sloan. They all have one thing in common. It's that Mike did it to everybody back then.
Yeah, terrible.
Yep.
Stay tuned for The Drive with Spence Checketts. Thanks for listening to the Sean O'Connell Show. We'll do it again tomorrow on ESPN 700.